Thanks. So the first thing we'll do before we really get into the meeting is take a moment to remember Bob Beck, who passed away unexpectedly just about a week ago. Bob was the chair of the Rail Trail Task Force committee and long time. Member and just even chair of the conservation board for quite a while. And it was a huge blow to the town and to all his friends and family. And I don't think I can really say, you can't overstate how much we kind of owe him as a town for getting this the way that the trail to where it is today and setting it up for where it's going to be in the future. I mean, without Bob's efforts on this, it never would have happened. I mean, and he never, I don't think he ever gave up from when he first thought about it a long time ago. And his perseverance and his, ingenuity to work with anybody who was interested in seeing this project go forward. Really connect the whole community, and I think we really owe it to him to continue that on until we're finished with it. So I don't know. So when Bob came up, I think it was the first month when I was a supervisor and wanted to start that committee up, and he's like, "All right, Bob, it's all yours." and he sure took that bull by the horns. I mean, he would personally go to people who lived along the trail, and it was probably what the old rail bed went over and spoke to them, and he assembled, I think, virtually every easement we were able to get to make this thing happen. And then when it came to finding funding and everything else that went with this, working with Rick and the highway department to get work done on it that just needed to get done. He got volunteers. I mean, he took care of everything. So yeah. So just so that we have a moment of silence for Bob. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else on the board wanted to.
Yeah, I'd love to add a few words. I had the pleasure of knowing Bob for close to 25 years, and he was a neighbor, friend, a mentor, a community leader. He made his contributions to the town pretty profoundly, as Jason just indicated. And I'm glad we have so many people here tonight. I know you're here for various reasons, but we just want you to know that this guy was a real giant, and the town can't function without volunteers, without community members who step up and quietly lead and bring their talents. And Bob did that. He was, I call it servant leadership. He got involved, and he kind of inspired the rest, anyone who was working with him, to work a little harder and be like Bob. And there was, certainly no hesitation in putting him in control of the Rail Trail Task Force in April of 2016. And at that time, seemed like a big pie in the sky project. And now it's happening, as many of you know, and it's partially open. And soon we're going to have a bridge going across Route 13. That was Bob Well, no doubt, there's even me, I was like, Bob, you sure you want to go this route? But he pushed me and pushed all of us, and we went after the funding, and as many of you know, we got that thing paid for with outside funding. Grant money, and Bob just knew we could get that done, and so he leaves a big hole, but he also leaves a big memory on how to get things done, and he's taught us how to get things done. So the Rail Trail Task Force is going to continue because he's showing us how to do it. And not sure who the next chair is. Maybe that person's in this room. Maybe that person's listening. But we need people like that, and Bob's shown us how to do it. And I'm really, really grateful for him, and he'll be missed. And I know we touched a lot of people. And we invited a couple of the boards. He was also on the conservation board in addition to the Rail Trail Task Force. And I just wanted to invite any of the members of those boards who work with him, or my colleagues here, if anyone else wants to say anything else. Bob, I mean, these folks didn't have the pleasure of working with him as long as we did, but they certainly got to see his impact. And it's been quite a service to us. Yeah, Jen.
Thank you for the invite. Certainly can't speak. I mean, I know Bob, I'm on the current chair at the conservation board. I've known Bob's, the 9 years I've been on the board. His leadership on the board, his willingness to advise. I think he left a legacy from, the Von Engel Preserve behind his house, the Finger Lakes Mine Trust, just working on important natural areas in town. He'll be missed. I respect him. Thank you.
Thanks.
There will be a celebration of his life later in August. I don't want to misstate the date, but it'll be in late August. I read the obituaries online if you want to read more about his life. But we'll be commemorating him for some time.
Anybody else?
Thanks.
Okay, guess I'll move into the meeting. So first I have to move to approve the meeting minutes of May 9th and May 16th.
A second.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and then next up, I'm gonna open the public hearing for the special use permit application for a contractor yard at 52 Quarry Road.
So JP Riley is the applicant for a contractor yard at this site, which is a former DEC regulated mine that has been closed out. The contractor yard, it's in a rural residential neighborhood on that side of Quarry Road. That it requires a special use permit for contractor yard there. There are two other contractor yards on Quarry Road, but they're in a different zoning district and went through a different process.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll have Bill Riley, the applicant. He wants to introduce the project.
I don't know if I'm limited on time, but there's quite an outpouring of comments I just wanted to address, so if you need to flag me to stop to give everybody else time, that's fine as well. My name is Bill Riley, owner at 52 Quarry Road. The property was purchased at the beginning of this year. The previous owner had an open active DEC permit, as I already mentioned, and that was to quarry rock similar to the other operations in that area. My company had some involvement in some of the activities last year as part of the final completion and closeout phase of that mine, helping the previous owner restore that quarry to the DEC satisfaction, which was to bring in quite a bunch of clean fill material, stabilize and vegetate the site to its original state, which closed out the permit and effectively remove the bond from the previous owner. Since I purchased the property, my company has used the property to park a few vehicles, some small equipment trailers, a job trailer, various other things there due to its proximity to some projects that we work on in and around Cornell's campus. And initially, it was our impression that since this site was heavily involved with heavy equipment and a lot of activities there for many years, that parking some vehicles and things like that would not have been an issue. And shortly after we started doing that, we were notified by the town of Dryden that since the DEC permit was closed out, it effectively reverted the property to Dryden zoning as residential. And we were told to fill out a special use permit. And the contractor's yard is one of the allowable uses by permit in this zone. Permit was filled out, turned in, and there's been quite a bit of feedback from a lot of the neighbors, and I wanted to make sure that all their concerns are addressed. And also wanted to state that I fully understand and agree with everybody that I too would be opposed to any activities that would majorly increase truck traffic or disturbance in any kind of a residential area. Especially when maybe everybody's experience is what's been going on the past couple of years there, which involved constant truck traffic. My purposes for the special use permit application luckily has nothing to do with heavy truck traffic, and being that the site has already been restored by the previous owner, that's what all the disruptive activity that's occurred has been due to. Our proposed special use permit for a contractor's yard would essentially be little more than what's been going on in the past 6 months, which is next to no activity, especially by comparison to what was going on before. I spent quite a bit of time going through a lot of the letters and statements that were submitted in opposition here, and I wanted to touch on what stands out as the biggest arguments to maybe clarify that and clear up some of these maybe incorrect assumptions. I talked before about the increased truck traffic, and that seems to be the resounding, repeated question that everyone's got, and understandably so, based on what they've experienced in the past there. The special use permit that we're applying for is simply to park some vehicles there, maybe the beginning, the end of the day, and whether the number of vehicles has to be limited in compliance with whatever the board feels is relevant to the area. We've got no issue discussing that, complying with that. There seems to be some kind of a detrimental association of my company with Cornell University as a whole, in its large scale construction projects. That's another kind of repeated complaint that we noticed there. If there's issues with the construction in general in the area due to Cornell's work, I think maybe that's a discussion for a different forum. I don't think the special use permit that we're applying for plays much part into traffic in and around the area. It is accurate that my company does perform work on a lot of campus projects, along with several hundred other companies. There is a statement about Quarry Road site being used as a staging area for what people would assume is a general contractor's multi-million-dollar project. That's really not at all what we do, and not what we're asking the special use permit for. And again, I would not expect anyone, including myself, to want that going on, in any neighborhood that I lived on. There is a place on the permit where we did mark out several areas for potential storage of short-term things that we use as contractors. We tried to pick areas on the site that are not in any view of the neighbors. We tried to pick areas that are already flat graded and able to short-term store things. The whole idea of that was just to keep a low profile, use the area for our convenience, based on its location, but not as a central hub for any major activities. We have main shops and storage yards in other, more remote areas that's geared towards that. The discussion of the traffic patterns possibly changing again. I'm kind of reverting to whether or not a special use permit is granted. There's still construction activity in the area. My company, along with many other companies, will still be traveling to and from the work site, whether it's bringing materials, removing excess fill, that kind of thing, which is the same routes to and from through Dryden, out 13, 366, all the surrounding areas. And again, in the past, Cornell has complied with specific trucking routes for major projects. So that would probably be a venue for that discussion is the owner of the projects really dictates the volume of work that's happening there and the routes that people can or can't take. I saw another note of a concern for mobile home residents. The permit we applied for included asking permission to have a small office trailer there. Could be used for clerical work. It's not a residence. We planned on providing a trailer that's traditional residential construction, shingles, siding, that kind of thing, instead of a typical ugly white construction trailer like what we have out there now. I saw a few mentions of the company, my company, JP Riley, being an out-of-state contractor. Nobody's arguing that point. It's a Pennsylvania entity, site work contractor. What that has to do with the special use permit approval, I'm not too sure, but to enlighten those people with those concerns, I've got about 40 give or take employees on any given day in this area, and almost every single one of them, New York State employees, local residents, property owners, taxpayers. Another item tangent to that was some kind of a challenge to the legal status or integrity of my company to perform work in the state of New York. Again, I'm not quite sure what that topic has to do with a special use permit. More of a New York State issue, if that's truly a concern, but we're fully licensed and allowed to perform work in the state of New York as we have been for at least 40 years. So just wanted to kind of set the record straight for some of the misleading information we're seeing out there. There's several comments about concerns for water quality, stormwater pollution prevention practices. As a site contractor of our scale, we are more than well versed in all the rules and regulations working around Tompkins County, City of Ithaca, Town of Ithaca for years. We are not expecting to not comply with any of those rules, regardless of what the site is used for. In fact, probably would be subject to a stricter oversight as a contractor with any kind of a site change implementation as opposed to private residence or agricultural use. Stormwater is a very serious topic. We take it as seriously, maybe more than most folks around here, as we deal with it on a daily basis. But the approval or disapproval of a special use permit does not change the leniency of stormwater rules to be followed. So again, it's not quite sure how that's got relevancy to the permit. And there's more, but those seem to be the resounding repeated issues there. And I just wanted to try to clear up and ease everybody's mind a little bit to start. want to give everyone a chance to speak and everybody's got a right to say their piece and have their opinions heard here. So I'll turn that over to you and any other questions?
Thank you.
Unless you have something now.
Thank you. Well, first of all, unless you have a question for me right now, I can go right.
I just want to, a few things, come up to my mind. So is Cornell your primary client?
One of our bigger clients in New York, yes.
Who are the other ones?
We work for private development firms. We work for general contractors. We do residential projects.
Right.
All over the county.
So if you could do it proportionally, because I know we're all wondering, what is the proportion
In New York,
of work now and elsewhere?
Cornell's probably 30%,
Okay,
whether it's directly or indirectly through as a subcontractor to other generals.
okay, and the rest are a mix.
A mix, yeah.
Any other government entities that you?
No, we've worked on New York State, OGS funded projects, things like that.
But this site wouldn't be related to any.
No.
Government work.
No.
It was mostly private, okay.
Anybody else?
And your purchase and investment in the site was primarily for this purpose.
Yes,
Okay, and when did you purchase it again?
I think we closed in January or February of this year.
Okay.
Did you, before doing your application, did you do a traffic study? Or as part of this,
No,
did you do a noise study?
no,
Like what kind of materials would be, because you lay out a couple of things from materials.
again, not as a general contractor, we typically as site work, we might have. Say one load of some plastic stormwater pipe. Not to say we couldn't store this at other locations, but sometimes it's more convenient to be. With the construction work on campus or staging areas are. Smaller and smaller to the point where we can't even park employees' vehicles on the sites we work at, which is another reason. Kind of for parking here and consolidating trucks, but maybe one or two loads of some plastic pipe. Maybe some precast concrete structures, storm manholes, that kind of thing. All stuff that would be used in the near future on projects that's just easier to stage. Closer than, an hour away or half an hour away.
How much of the parking you were you planning to have as be park and ride for employees versus equipment? I don't know how much you're looking at it, aerial work platforms or other kinds of mobile equipment.
Yep, typically the equipment's on the site being used, so there might be. Something in flux in between a few jobs, maybe one or two pieces of heavy equipment. One or two dump trucks, associated trailers, and then probably. Based on my workforce, somewhere around a dozen passenger vehicles, give or take. That they would commute to their, to work from.
So on a daily basis, that would be the.
Yeah, it would be entering, parking, staying for the day, maybe leaving at the end of the day, not a coming and going, so. Total traffic counts, I saw there was a traffic count of several hundred vehicles. Noticed on Quarry Road in a given day. I wouldn't expect, for our use, we would add more than 10 or 15 individual. Vehicles, but in the majority of those being small passenger vehicles, employees' vehicles.
So 10 to 15 vehicles, including trucks.
Yeah, it's not a site we'd be working out of. It's just actually physically parking a truck for the night. The guys come to work in the morning, pick it up and go to work, but not a coming and going.
And what would the hours be, the specific hours when these vehicles were to arrive in the park?
Whatever time, I guess would be allowed for any other contractors in the area to get started. I'm not sure what, is there a noise ordinance that starts at 7:30 or 8 o'clock? For picking up, coming and going.
Well, what's, I guess, for this application purpose, we'd want that spelled out. You know, the narrower the better if we're going to
Right.
approve this.
Yeah, I would say 7 o'clock in the morning would be a start and 4 o'clock in the afternoon would be end.
Okay. And after that, the yards are pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Otherwise, no one's doing anything.
No,
Are they
it's
there?
not an active work site.
Do deliveries need tractor trailer access?
Deliveries in terms of my supplies and things. Some might, yeah.
Okay.
Wouldn't be a regular occurrence though.
Any questions?
Not yet.
No, okay, I'm gonna take some comments from the public, so there was. Somebody who raised their hand on Zoom first, so this person who raised their hand, the 805 phone number, is that for this?
It's been up since before the meeting started.
Yeah, I think that's just a mistake.
I don't know what they were. All right, does anybody? Do we have a list?
Yeah, there probably is this stuff.
There's another one with their hand up.
Huh?
There's another one with their hand up.
iPad.
Yeah.
So are you asking for anybody who's on the Zoom meeting? If they would-
Yeah, someone on Zoom, yeah, Zoom first, so who is this, Marty? Sounds like
This is Buzz Dolph.
Buzz, Buzz, okay.
So am I making a comment here now? Is that?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not really used to this stuff, so,
You have the floor.
You have the floor.
okay. So first of all, let me say that I probably know the history of this property better than anybody alive. My earliest memories when I was a young child was entering that quarry with my father. And I owned the property until I sold it to Frank Colangeli. And a lot of people were upset with me at that point when that happened, but I had written a mine reclamation plan back in the 90s, which created that mining permit and reclamation plan that Billy Riley talked about. Hi, Billy, how you doing? So my concern with this, I guess, is somewhat emotional because I spent a long time living at the base of the quarry. My house is on reclaimed quarry property, and with the idea that eventually it was going to stop, right? It would, that the property would go back to some form that would be used other than mining and filling the mine back up, which, was hopefully going to be residential. But Pogo didn't give me a chance to buy it back, so that was that. But the concerns that Nancy and I have are there are a few. One, I mean, I've been around the construction business long enough to know that storage area for site guys generally means, things like pipe and concrete and so on and so forth. But one concern that I could have would be you end up with a Mount Varna, where trucks come in, they bring a bunch of stuff, stockpile it in a storage area, right? And I mean, that's what it says. And then it stays there for 2 years while the project's going on, and then it comes back. The trucks come back, they haul it back out, and all of a sudden you're kind of back to where we were when the big digs were going on and the fill was going on, and Nobody really liked that. I put up with it, living with it, because I knew that it was gonna be reclaimed and ended. My other concern is runoff. I don't see anything that looks like a SWIP, that looks like water retention, that looks like and I don't know the special use permit law well enough to know whether a SWIP is required. I do know that if you affect more than 1 acre, it kicks in the SWIP law. And one thing that I would think would be necessary would be a SWIP. I know that Pogo had some retention ponds that were required by the state that are still there. In fact, I just cleaned one out last year for Pogo. And I also know that the runoff from most of the quarry that goes into the creek that runs down, it's below the White House on Quarry Road, that ends up going underground and through my pond. So a lot of that water from that creek, most of the water in the creek itself does not go on the road ditch. It goes into that creek, which is the navigable water, I think. And when my father started reclamation many years ago, we created a way for that water to travel underground under the old slag heaps, and that fills our pond, and it overflows 365 days a year. That pond's been built for 25 years, and I've never seen it not overflow once. So that means that it's going to change the water, the way the water patterns work in the quarry, and that concerns us. We don't want to see it running into the road ditch, and we want to see sediment control through an approved SWIP if possible. But and ideally, I guess I would have to say that I would prefer to see that property turn into a residential area, because I think the town of Dryden needs more housing, and Quarry Road certainly doesn't need any more trucks. So I guess that's all I have to say about it.
Russ?
If I could speak for just a moment, this is Nancy Norton. I live at 26 Quarry Road. And looking at the site plan, it looks like that meandering of the creek. I have gotten my car stuck in it when it's not really like a bubbling creek or anything, but it makes a big muddy spot, and then it does go down under the hill to our pond. But it's genuinely water, a body of water of some sort. And it looks like the site plan just directs it in a straight line into the ditch at the top of the hill. Since Nick Belisario took over the quarry across the street, the water there has been diverted, and our mailbox has been undermined 3 times. The town of Dryden has had to come and rebuild the shoulder there. I don't know what the cost is. I know that I was able to stand in the hole in front of my mailbox and it went up to my knee. So I'm concerned about, given the more intense storms that we're getting, having the road undermined by water moving very quickly directly into the ditch, as opposed to meandering its way down the hill. That was my main concern. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm gonna go off the list here, and if you signed up for this hearing, just come on up. Benjamin Moore.
Hi, thank you. So it was nice to see local government and democracy in action. So thanks everybody for coming. I assume that everybody that's up to date on this issue has read the comments. Particularly, I would point you, if you haven't, to the document submitted by our neighbors, excuse me, Michael and Andrea, which is a very detailed response to this application, and I think covers the relevant issues. I would echo those I live just below the site in question at the corner of Quarry and Ellis Hollow. We know the potential impacts, the noise pollution, the truck traffic. And I appreciate Mr. Riley coming and speaking in detail. That is certainly meaningful, I'm sure, to all of us. But I think nonetheless, the concerns that we have are not necessarily addressed by his comments. The traffic, if the special use permit specified in writing, we're going to be 15 vehicles a day. They were going to go in one direction, park, leave. Some small portion of that would be trucks. That would be a different story. It seems to me that as we stand, the permit application does not reach that level of specificity. And I also don't know, I would ask, maybe you can respond. You bought this 23 acres of prime real estate that is, I don't know what you paid, but it must have been a fair amount. It's valuable land. It's hard to see how that is used, as a glorified parking lot essentially in perpetuity. So what's next? What comes after this in a year or 2 or 5 or 10? We're also going to be living there. Are there, implications of the permit for that for the future? Can you? I don't know those are questions that I have. I don't know if the board can speak to that or if Mr. Riley can speak to that. I think the concerns speak for themselves. I think they're well documented, and I know other of my neighbors will address them more specifically. But those would be my concerns. Like, sure, you could see a path for this being reasonable for a year or 2, but then what? And what guarantees do we have as longtime multi-generational families and taxpayers that those concerns are going to be really specifically addressed? So I would turn the floor over to members next. Thank you.
Thank you. Poppy Singer.
Well, speaking of multi-generational, I grew up on Turkey Hill Road. My mom still lives there, Betty Singer, and my daughter lives on Turkey Hill Road, a little bit right across from the Foundation of Light, and I live right around the corner on Ellis Hollow Road, and my son lives in my backyard. So, we have already too much traffic. There's too much traffic on the road and it goes too fast. I mean, now so many people use it already as a thoroughfare to get from 79 into town or to Cornell, and they go fast, they go 45 miles an hour is too fast for me. But anyway, there's too many cars already. Yesterday morning, I was out in my garden out front, and early in the morning, 3 huge 24-wheel trucks came by my house. And then later in the day, they came back. And the Belisario trucks are going all the time. I just don't want more traffic on the road. That's my big thing. And even 15 more cars a day. Like, I just don't want more cars on the road. There's already too many. People go too fast. And I'd like Ellis Hollow Road to be a 30-mile-an-hour road so that there'd be fewer cars going there. So I do not want more cars on the road. That's my main thing. So.
Sharon Barry.
I live on Ellis Hollow Road, and I've lived there 24 years. And I remember the road conditions for many years. Currently, it's actually been fixed very nicely. I have a lot of concern about the trucks. I don't know. I didn't know how big the trucks are going to be or what kind of equipment they were going to be moving. But my gut reaction to it is that I don't consider Cornell a good neighbor. I don't think they're paying their fair share in taxes. So when I hear that somebody is coming to stage in my neighborhood to do work for Cornell and maybe tear up the roads or create whatever problems could be created by the traffic that heavy loads, I'm thinking that I'm going to be responsible with my tax dollars for having those repaired. And that's a concern, especially this year when my taxes are going to increase by a big margin. And so I'm speaking very nicely, but when I leave here, my voice is going to be a little bit different. My concern is I don't want to see the traffic, but I don't want to see the damage to the roads. I mean, there's other concerns too, but that's a big one for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Roy, am I saying this right, Tow Hunter?
Hello, thank you. I spoke at the last meeting, so a couple of you were here before and you recognize the accent. First of all, I work, like many people here, I work with Cornell and I do pay taxes. So Cornell does support our family. I've lived opposite on both sides of the quarry since 1993. We moved to Sapsucker Woods. And it's been a wonderful location, except for the fact that the quarry has always been there and it's gone from a beautiful lake where you can walk with the kids and swim the dogs to what we have now. So I can't really add anything to what's been said before, except we've raised 4 children here. We do like to walk. We're getting older. We can't run and bike quite so much. Even when we do bike, it's, as everybody knows, it's still dangerous. So walking is one way to go. And as we get older, it's going to be more difficult. I can't really add much more except for the damage to the roads, the traffic. There's going to be no control over the number of trucks that come into this area. Who's going to monitor it? There just isn't enough detail, I think. Although I do respect you for coming to speak to us, I think you're very brave. I'm not as brave as you, that's for sure. So I just love the area. We want to stay here. We're going to probably die here. And I would like to be a residential area. There's not much else I can really say. And the more industry we have, we're personal friends of the Bellisarios. And we believe that they've actually improved the area that they were on before. And in my opinion, when they drive around, they are most of the time very respectful of the traffic and the people and slow down. But, you know, the buses are going to be traveling in the morning, the school buses early in the morning, in that afternoon. There's just going to be a lot of more people, children around. We already know that people don't stop when the buses stop and they drive around. Having more trucks there, the visibility is going to be interrupted. And one day somebody is going to be killed on Ellis Hollow Road, I've no doubt, or a dog's going to be killed. Something like that's going to happen. That's about all I can say. Thank you.
You mentioned the Hungerford. That's a big, I will recommend for it. We're 104, right, right above the site. I will then.
Ellen. Ellen Schmidt.
I am going to add pretty much echo what my previous speakers have said. My husband and I have lived on Genung Circle for 35 years, a 3-generational family. Obviously seen a lot of change during that time. Definitely increase of traffic. And these roads are rural. Snyder Hill is rural. Quarry Road is rural, even Ellis Hollow. And sometimes we see tractors on them at times. We go for a walk once or twice a day. We see other people walking. We see people pushing baby strollers, bikes, riders, and thinking about the trucks that we already see on these very small, narrow roads that are incompatible and not engineered for heavier vehicles. I just shudder to think about how they cannot stop rapidly, and that's worrisome. Not related to trucks, but there was a child, a 6-year-old child, killed on Snyder Hill Road not that many years ago in a traffic accident. The roads are curved, they're bendy. I was interested in Mr. Riley's contributions. I looked at the application and was somewhat amazed at how little was in it. So I would think that a reapplication with the things that he is saying in greater specificity would be very important to include. I'm also concerned that 23 acres have been purchased. And I'm wondering about whether it's like the elephant, not the elephant, but the camel's nose in the tent. What's planned for the future? Your wildlife preserve, perhaps, I don't know, but I'm a little concerned about that going forward. Well, there are many issues we've talked about, the particulate air pollution, I think, and noise pollution, the beeping that trucks make also, and the impacts on water, which were raised here. In fact, in one of the documents that were submitted, I saw a letter from the County Department of Planning and Sustainability that dated May 13th that recommended modifications for this proposal to preserve and protect water quality. So in sum total, I would like to request a full environmental impact review for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Josh Felber. Yep.
Be enabled, I don't know who that Zoom person is.
Yeah, I just made him co-host so you could share. Yeah.
All right, it's a little dark. Good evening, I'm Josh Belver. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Mr. Riley, I appreciate you showing up here in person. I live at 27 Hungerford Road. That arrow there is where my home is. This is the site, and I share several hundred feet bordering this. I'm here tonight to share the direct impact that the work there has had on my family in the last year and my concerns for the future. The fill from those dump trucks that many of my neighbors have heard, the clangs, the bangs, the smell of diesel fumes is literally in my front yard. This is what I'm talking about. The noise has been outrageous. I have not filed a noise complaint because I assumed it was going to be temporary and homes were going to be placed there. It's woken my children up in the morning. I live with my wife and my 9-year-old and my 10-year-old. We've moved my daughter's room to the other side of the house because it's been so disruptive. We can hear it in every room in our house. The small tree line is barren 6 months of the year. I can see every vehicle. I can hear people talking. I can hear the employees talking on the hill. That trampoline is 250 feet. My yard is 200 feet. This is a better view of it. So I'm very concerned of the noise pollution moving forward. It has had an impact and it will continue to do so. I'm concerned for the pollution. I can smell the diesel fumes. My son has asthma. We can smell it. My well is here. And this is I'm concerned for the safety of our water quality, in addition to the creeks and the wells of many of us here in this room. I'm concerned for the safety of the road. It's already busy with large trucks and people speeding. I drive on it every day to and from school where I drop my children off, or I go to work multiple times a day. I'm concerned for our property values. My only investment is my home. I living next to an active industrial construction yard will certainly devalue my home, and I suspect many of my neighbors. Bill, I'm a father. I don't know if you are. This is not the right thing to do. Please don't do this. Route 13 has a lot of land. Sell this land, make up a mint, put homes there. You're our elected officials. You're my neighbors. Please do the right thing and reject this. I'm concerned for the safety of my home, our property values, and the destruction of this community. See that? That's how this is being characterized. This is our home here, and these are my neighbors. We live here. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Wallenstein.
My name is Andrew Wallenstein. I live at 47 Hungerford Road, just a couple of, actually literally two houses up the hill from the last speaker. On some of the pictures that have been part of this presentation, his house is obviously closest. My house is two houses up. So it's in, you can see the house in the pictures. What I want to talk about is it would be easy, I think, for the board to think that everyone here, this is one of the situations in my backyard. No one wants any projects in their backyard. I just want to point out a couple of things about that, why I think that's really not the case here. One is that in most cases with something like that, there's a project that's going to be for the good of the community. Some people are going to be inconvenienced that want in their backyard, but it is for the good of the community, and some people just have to bite the bullet and it's going to be in their backyard. This project isn't for the good of the community at all. This project is for the benefit of Mr. Riley's company. No one in this room is going to benefit from having this variance granted, having this construction lot built there. It's not benefiting anyone here. The other reason I think it's not really an issue of not in my backyard is look how many people are here opposing this. Yeah, it is literally almost in my backyard. It is in Josh's backyard. But it's not, it's in some of our backyard, but it's not in all of our backyards. This is a very large group. There are a lot of letters that I saw that were written in opposition. There are a lot of people on the Zoom. It's not our backyard. So I just want to point that out and hopefully get the board to realize that that's not the situation here, and I hope you will not grant this waiver. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Mike Parker, are you for this or? No, okay. Sydney Boyce.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that first I wanted to thank Mr. Riley for coming, and I'm so sorry that he bought land so recently and didn't have enough information about it. However, I think that as everyone has said, there are some big concerns. I want to echo my appreciation for Buzz's comments on the environment. Obviously, he's got the data, and that's what drives a lot. And I think that's very important. Another point is that this is a steep hill. And so there's all the consequences, as Buzz pointed out with that. There's also the consequences of driving on Quarry Road. As you know, at the bottom of Quarry Road, there are giant, big, flashing stop signs because of the danger of this area. We are I live with Jim, my husband, at 490 Snyder Hill Road. We are at the corner of Quarry and Snyder Hill Road. So at the bottom and at the top, you've got a lot of danger. I know the danger at the top also because it was in front of our house that this little 6-year-old girl was killed because of the speed. Every single year, people run into our yard and take out part of our property because they go so fast. So you add trucks in here, and that's just not going to work. The other thing is as everybody has said about this monitoring and the vagueness, and I really don't want to submit another application. I'm so sorry, but because an application said, okay, we're going to have 20 cars or 25 cars and 5 trucks, that's not going to make a difference for some of these big major concerns. As someone else said, I've driven around 13 and I see these properties flat. Not very beautiful, no houses around them. That's where a parking lot can be, not there. The other thing is being at the top, I know so many people have talked about the noise when they're right there. I can tell you when they're not right there, the way the sound goes, we hear the boom, 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 boom of the trucks. And I'm quite certain 70 miles we're going to hear all of this beeping. And the dirt on the road from those trucks is going to be there. It's going to be sliding down that hill in the wintertime, or even in the summer when it's raining with all the rain of that. The other thing I'm concerned about is that, again, the future, Where we are, we had to go very deep in order to get water, and we still don't have enough water, so we have big holding tanks. I know some of our neighbors do. And so what is the future gonna be if they're gonna drill for some water or something for the trucks? And then they take more water, we may not have any water where we are, as well as if it's going to be any good or not. So those are just my concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Barbara Mitchell.
Myself and my husband, and Donna will be speaking with you also, we live right next to the site. Our property backs up to the site. When the other picture was up and they were showing Hungerford, they had like the kidney bean shaped site plot. Ours was directly on the bottom of that, so we border that. It's been really tough. We moved here, we built a house 26 years or so ago. We understood at the time that it was an active quarry. We were told it was probably going to cease and it would go to reclamation within 5 years. The noise, it's never stopped. The constant noise, the dirt, the dust, the banging of the dump truck doors, the engine braking on the road, the beeping, sound. Sydney mentioned the sound in that area carries really well. I can hear people talking over in the pit. So it's been constant. We have complained to the town board. I've called the police department because of the mud on the road. And it's bad. I mean, I have a horse. And if I'm gonna go someplace and I know it's been raining, this was last year, the last few years, I don't go that way because I don't want to risk sliding down the road. It's that bad. The application states that they may put some gravel down. There is not enough gravel in the world to take care of the mud problem that's going to come out on the road. Property's been sold again. We've been told before that it was grandfathered in and we had to put up with what it is. It's sold, it's rural residential, that's the way it would stay. I read the application and I found the application respectfully to be superficial to the point of being deceptive. When I looked at it, some things. He said the site was going to be used as a storage yard for miscellaneous construction equipment with the added office trailer and storage building. There's no mention of the size and type of the equipment that's going to be used to bring the stuff in and out. I had seen some of Riley's trucks around town, full length, big, heavy construction stuff. They're very big and they're noisy. Damage to the road is a given, and the taxpayers of this community are going to be stuck paying for it. The mud is going to continue to be a serious concern. The application states that the use mining will be substantially less impactful than the previous site. That's an acknowledgement of how difficult it has been to be there. The application also states that the activities will be in line with neighboring property agreements. We don't have any agreement with anybody. There's a photograph in there that says there's no sight lines to adjacent residents. That is incorrect. You can see it. I question if there's so little use of it, which just got discussed, why 23 acres had to be purchased to park a few pickup trucks and pipe and things like that. So I'm sorry, we've been there a long time. I'm not buying it. I myself don't see a need for a further application. My opinion is under no circumstances should this be granted. It's not a good use of the property. And it's time to let the zoning let the zoning be what the zoning is.
Thank you. Nina Thompson.
Hello, thank you. I'm Nina Thompson. I was born and raised on Steiner Hill Road, initially just downhill from Quarry Road and then subsequently uphill from there. And several years ago, I bought property and settled on Ellis Hollow Road. I have been familiar with this area around the quarry and the property in question for a period of over 4 decades. And I've seen many iterations of the businesses on the road. I now walk my dog on a stretch of Ellis Hollow Road between my house and Dodge Road twice a day, and it's frightening every day. The regular car traffic is bad enough with the 45-mile-per-hour speed limit. People are driving at least 55. But when you add large commercial trucks or dump trucks, it becomes even scarier. I have taken to video recording my walks, just so that I have some evidence should myself or my dog be seriously injured. And I say seriously because we have both had minor injuries. I've had snow, rain, gravel thrown in my face, all over my dog. And large trucks are the main culprits of those incidents. Not to mention that my dog and I have nearly been run over by these commercial trucks, including J.P. Riley trucks, to the point where I actually tried to find a contact information for that company in question to report a dangerous driver operating one of their vehicles. I have hours of video on my phone demonstrating how dangerous it is already to walk in this area. There are already many of these dump trucks that come by nearly every day, even in the past 6 months. And the idea that this would continue and potentially be increased terrifies me. I'm asking you not to approve this permit as it would significantly negatively impact property values, the ability of us to enjoy our properties, and the safety of all of those of us who live in this residential neighborhood.
Thank you. Sean Dombrowski.
Hi, my name is Sean Dombrowski. I live on Ellis Hollow Road with my lovely wife Sasha and our little baby Zelda, who you hear out there. And I want to carry for, it was Nina, right? Yeah, nice to meet you. What she was saying, this is actually the heart of what I wanted to start with and share. Every day my wife goes on a walk with our little baby attached to her, and she walks our dog down Ellis Hollow Road. And every day it is frightening to me because the road is already at max or beyond comfort for safety. Last summer, our neighbor was pulling out of his driveway, and with the traffic density and the aggression on the road, there was a minor fender bender, some issues there. One of these massive industrial trucks, which are absolutely incessantly part of our life. Not that that's explicitly what your company is doing, but I don't know. About a quarter mile away, saw where this accident was. It took them the entirety of that with the extremely aggressive loud brakes to stop enough to just slam into the car and spin it around twice. That driver came out. He was extremely aggressive, screaming and cursing. Don't you know this is an 80,000-pound truck? You blah, blah, blah. Get out of the road. It takes a quarter mile to stop these things. That stuck with me. And the idea, the proposition of, oh, let's allow a staging site so that we can increase this. Is it going to be explicitly 80,000-pound trucks or only 65,000? Will it only be 20,000? The technicality there is not what I'm speaking to. It's the qualitative effect of what is our neighborhood for? Is it for the people that live in the neighborhood, or is it for folks that are not from here? It's fine, be where you're from. But the question of the NIMBY, the not in my backyard, I think is actually applicable, but not for our backyards. This is a wealth accumulation project for Cornell and for this individual and for the folks involved with it. That's fine. What is it to look like in their backyard? Cornell, could they afford 23 acres somewhere on their campus to store these things? If this is going to be a development project to benefit them financially, that seems profoundly reasonable. There's an unending expansion of their tendrils in all directions in our collective landscape. It's threatening explicitly to our safety. So not speaking to the technical details of the application, should it be approved or not, it's a qualitative question of what are we moving towards? Do we say yes to this, allow that project to expand? Let's see what else expand. On Ellis Hollow, there's a big field. Maybe that can turn into a giant production space. I don't know. I think it's a no. It should be a no. And to speak to this person and their desire for that, but also specifically to Cornell, keep it where you are. Put it in your own space. You've got enough where you are. We have our small lives. We run a small farm. We have friends. We don't want to die on the road. So please say no. Thank you.
Thank you. D'Amico Hartman? Don, okay, yeah. Donald Hartman, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you very much. My name is Don Hartman. I live on 134 Quarry Road, and I abut directly adjacent to the old property here. I came here for a couple reasons tonight. I wanted to make sure I was on record for what I felt, but I also wanted to hear from my neighbors, because I think it's important that as a group, we understand each other. We all have the same agenda in mind, and I just wanted to make sure I understood that I wasn't misrepresenting the neighborhood. So as I review the application presented by the Riley Group, and I appreciate the fact tonight I wouldn't have the nerve to do that. I noted that the application completely ignores the nature of the residential component of the neighborhood that would be impacted by granting this application. If you look south while standing on the property, there are immediately 3 residential properties, all of which are directly aligned with the site and abut the site. 2 of those properties have been recently assessed in valuations about $1 million. In addition to that, all 3 properties are faced with a persistent visual noise, truck traffic, and brilliant dust pollution if the application is approved. I agree with obviously what my wife has said about this. We hear this all day, every day. Not somebody works on the weekends there. I can tell you that. And I have the ability, since it's only across from my property, I can walk 15 feet into the field and see all the cars and trucks that are there if they're there. And I've been able to watch that ebb and flow all the time. If you go further Quarry Road, which has probably a little less impact on the noise and truck traffic and the pollution, there are still 2 additional residents there whose assessment evaluations are in the high 6 figures. And in addition to that, there are another 7 properties that run up that 0.6 mile road that are going to be impacted by whatever we agree to here. If you turn around and look northwest, you face Hungerford Road, and we've heard that story already. But those people also abut this property only on the other side. They have the same issues that we do. If we go through just Ellis Hollow and Snyder Hill Road, these are residential properties that aren't directly affected at all, but they are going to be the feeder roads for the Quarry Road site. So they all are going to see the traffic coming. And if you drive down that road on your way home tonight and you come down Snyder Hill, that's the only way that I can see you can access that particular site that Mr. Riley is doing, because the other side is so tight. And the road is so narrow and the driveways are so narrow that you couldn't possibly get an 18-wheeler in there that at least I could see. So given all these points, I encourage to completely vote no vote on the alternative site. Finally, when I moved here over 25 years ago, I invested in my property in large part because of the rural residential nature and designation of our property. Over the years, I've continued to invest thousands of dollars to grow its value while retaining the rural residential nature. Over that same period of time, I've watched my neighbors invest tens of thousands of dollars in new construction, in revamping, in renovations and so on, all with the idea that they wanted to enjoy a neighborhood that was peaceful and quiet with rural and residential. We are proud as a community, I can see that by the number of people that are here, of what we've accomplished both individually and as a neighborhood. What is difficult to appreciate is how the addition of 52 Quarry Road as a contractor's yard can in any way enhance the character or value of our neighborhood and homes. Parachuting a purely industrial operation into a residential environment can only diminish the value of the entire neighborhood. So I would encourage an alternative be pursued rather than this particular one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Matthew Marks.
Good evening. I'll make this quick. I live up the hill, 101 Turkey Hill Road, lived there for about 9 years. So it's kind of a little bit of ways away, but I do travel through the neighborhood here, lots of familiar faces and friends here. In 2020, we purchased 44 Quarry Road from Buzz, actually. So I actually own the property and have 4 long-term tenants that live directly abutting that property. And I guess I just want to go on record here to echo the same concerns that a lot of the speakers tonight presented much better than I can. So I just want to just go on record echoing those same concerns and just speaking up for our own little selfish interest in that, you know, my family put a lot of money into buying this property. It's a long-term investment. I think the optics are obvious, having an active contractor yard next to a rental property might be hard, to say the least, to attract and retain tenants. I like our tenants, they're happy there, proud of that property. I'm proud of that neighborhood, I feel part of it, even though I don't directly live next to it. So I would like to defer to the people who actually really feel the impact even more so than I do. Even though I live up the street, I don't physically live next to that property, but I definitely feel that I live close enough to feel that impact. But I really can't say what has been already said tonight by a lot of the speakers, but I just want on record to say that I hear what they're saying, and I do add my voice to the chorus of concerns for the permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Martha Robertson.
Martha Robertson, 1655 Ellis Hollow Road, so not near this, but certainly travel through the area. I didn't come here to talk about this tonight, but I've been looking at the documents online, and a couple of comments. One, it sort of feels like, because it's a cross quarry road from an industrial site, it's kind of part of an industrial neighborhood, but the way I see this, and I've driven up around there, the area that would be used is a big open field. So it's not like reusing a currently industrial site. I think the application said about two out of the 23 acres would be impacted. From what I can tell, it's literally an open field. And if you're going to put materials and a trailer and trucks, you're going to have to pave it. And I think it says something about some gravel. I can't imagine that you're not going to have to put pavement down. So, and I think all of you know, that is a very steep hill. I'm worried about increasing the permeable surface, the impermeable surface at the top of that hill, and how that will really impact stormwater, rainwater coming down. I mean, we need the water to be absorbed at the top of the hill. So as a couple of people have said, this is certainly a site that won't go begging. It would be a beautiful place for a housing neighborhood, and which we do need. And we could preserve the vast majority of that as, permeable soil that wouldn't impact the neighbors downhill. So I appreciate the thoughtful consideration everybody's taking and the activity of the neighbors here, but I was just adding those couple of other thoughts about this too.
Cool, thank you. Deborah, like, Colts, not for this. Marlene. Barber.
I think everyone here has articulated many concerns. My husband and I have lived at 125 Genung Circle for approximately 35 years. So we've certainly seen changes over that time. But one of the major concerns that people have raised is the traffic issue, and the traffic on Genung Road, which we abut, has gotten increasingly worse. And I think the proposed construction site would divert a lot more local traffic to Genung Road, which would be problematic because it's in some places it's almost an only one lane road. It doesn't really accommodate 2 lanes. And there have been many accidents, not major accidents, but people going off the road. So it's really not meant for additional traffic. So I think one of the first questions that Mr. Lamb raised was, has there been a traffic study? And the offset of traffic to Genung Road should certainly be part of that. But given the many concerns that people have articulated, it seems to me this should be denied as a special use permit. And if there is any further action on it, it does require a full and complete state environmental quality review. So I would invoke secret here as necessary to address the noise, water, traffic, all of the negative impacts that have been raised. Thank you.
Thank you. David Parker.
Evening, my name is David Barkin. I'm a lifelong resident, grew up on Genung Circle, primary residence up until recently on Snyder Hill, and hopefully one of these days hope to build my dream house on Ellis Hall Road in close proximity to this site. Regarding sort of the commercial character of that zone, right? You can't look at the quarry and its adjacency as part of this. The specificity of the rural residential zoning is what should be considered. Any established rights or the conservation use over, on the other side doesn't reflect the intended character of the neighborhood on the side of the applicant. And I certainly don't begrudge the applicant for, making a speculative purchase and going through the motions. This is the arena in which they should try for this. However, this is the risk, right? And I can speak to, as a real estate professional, the risks in terms of land acquisition and then going through the zoning. And then every now and then you come up against something such as this, which is perceived and very real negative impacts. And so the community comes out, and in that sense, similar to a use variance or an area variance, you have to weigh the perceived negative impacts to the neighborhood versus the benefits to the appellant. And so whether or not 23 acres of rural residential zoning, if this is the highest and best use, that's not really for us as neighbors to decide. That's the town and the town zoning law. And in this specific instance, you have a very clear window, I would argue, to vote no currently. And then absent that, certainly we need to, like others have said, really explore those impacts. And I would, as a taxpayer and as a neighbor, I don't want to see the town get bogged down in trying to navigate this when we have a clear pathway to voting no and the legitimate reason to do so. I'd be wary of kind of the application in and of itself, the conditions under which relief could be granted. I don't think they've met that burden for relief. And so I urge you to vote no. Again, I admire the chutzpah of the applicant, but it falls short in this sense. And I think you have a very clear mandate and community input to do so. So thank you.
Thank you. James Scarpa.
I'm Jim Scarpula. I live next to Josh. I live on 39 Hungerford Road. I've lived there since August of 20. My wife and I bought the property then, and moved in and have done a lot of upgrading to the tune of probably in the range of $150,000. Property was expensive as it was. We put more into it. We improved it. We're quite proud of it. And we're very happy to be there because of the quiet environment, nice neighbors, many of which I've met, and unfortunately, for part of the 4 years we've lived there, it wasn't so quiet because they were busy grading up there. I took a walk up there. I actually talked to the workmen. I said, "What's going on?" They didn't know. But the noise continued. It was completely disruptive. I called the town because they started their work between 7 and 7:30 in the morning. Now I get up pretty early. It wasn't huge to me, but not everyone in my house does. So that was a huge disruption. I wrote a email specifying my concerns as noise pollution, air pollution, diesel fuel is not a good smell. And property values. I would add to that anything that it would do to impact the wells, all of which Hungerford Road is water comes from wells, and we all have septic systems as well. So those are my concerns. I won't take up more time except to say that I am vehemently opposed to approving this project. I moved into that neighborhood. We moved into that neighborhood because it was residential. It was quiet. We're on 2-acre lots. The houses are spread out. It's a beautiful area. Really is a unique and beautiful area. And I will add that I've lived on that hill, East Hill, since 1984. I own 3 properties on Snyder Hill Road, which I rent to graduate students as well. And I've lived in those properties intermittently. So I have a lot invested in East Hill. I'd like it to remain as it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathleen Kraft. She's on Zoom.
And lurking quietly. I just wanted to say a slightly different perspective. I've lived just a half mile down the road in Snyder Hill for 40 years, so I've seen how the traffic has changed. They zoom by. There's so many more cars. Years ago, you could walk on the road and there might be one car, and now it's like every minute somebody's going by. This morning I went and I sat on the road for about from 7:45 to 9 o'clock, and there were 120 cars that went up and down Quarry Road from the top to the bottom, and a few went to the quarry and a few went to the electric company. And 3 school buses went by. It's a spot with really poor visibility where the driveway is. And as somebody who's worked with semi-trailers and things before, I don't see how you could safely back any kind of a big truck in and out of that narrow driveway. The quarry has, long, gentle sort of sloping exits, places going up or going down the road. I don't see how you could do it. I can imagine long trucks occasionally being there blocking the road and you're coming skating down because it's icy or rainy. So that's one of my concerns. Another is if these materials are coming, could they be coming from other sites where things are being stored, going to put more traffic on Snyder Hill or whatever? And so where are these other storage sites, and would there be a lot of traffic going back and forth? So that's just a slightly different safety concern about the trucks, and I don't know how big they'd be, and it doesn't sound like there maybe be a lot of them, but definitely a serious safety concern, because you cannot see when you're coming down the hill and 3/4 of those cars are going down, presumably heading towards campus or whatever. You cannot see till you get over sort of the crest of the hill, even see this site to see that there's somebody backing in or out.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Does anybody else have any who didn't speak? Sorry, I think I got added to the wrong list, maybe.
No, I'm Fenton O'Shea, I live on 603 Snyder Hill Road. Just an addendum to maybe some of the other concerns that were noted. There were some comments about houses surrounding being, $1 million plus, some of them very close to that. I think there's an opportunity here to look at the tax base, right? You have this tax base of this area, the town collects taxes from that area. There's a lot of money being made for the town from those houses that surround that area. There's a house for sale right now. I saw the sign go up recently that borders that property. So I would encourage anybody who lives nearby, if that house sells for a lower amount, because of the fact that this got approved, please make sure to lobby the town for lower taxes, lower assessments. And then.
That's the county.
Anyway, there's an effect on the town, right? There could be an effect on the amount of money that the town is able to collect, how nice of a desk gets put in the town hall, all these kind of things, right? So just something to think about there. And then there's the other discussion about the roadway. Quarry is very steep. The driveway for this property is right in the steepest area of Quarry Road. In the wintertime, it's always a risk anyway. It's way out in the corner of town. I get it. The plows don't make it there immediately. There's very big ditches on the roadside. It's tough to navigate when it's snowy. You put another vehicle coming the opposite direction or an 18-wheeler jackknifed there, you're putting more inhibitions to being able to navigate that. So adding challenge, adding risk to those who are trying to navigate that area, especially in the wintertime. So anyway, thanks for hearing me out, and thanks everybody for.
Thank you. All right, I don't see anybody else, so. Close the public hearing, and then. Oh, well, actually, can't. Yeah, close, yeah, so. You guys have questions from the board? More?
No additional questions.
No.
Well, I think we've heard a lot of important points from you, but particularly about the traffic that is there now. And regardless of what happens with this project, I think that's something we need to keep in mind and ways to address the current safety issues that we're hearing that really worry a lot of you. And it's true, people use it as a cut through, a way to get through. I'm sorry, my mic's not, a way to get across town, and I know you're getting more and more traffic that way. But one of the things that we look at with the special use permit is other impacts on the neighborhood. The noise, the steep of the road, I think is a good point. Glad you raised that. And other aspects of what happens to that property in the future, I think is something that weighs heavily on us. But denying this project is not going to solve the traffic problem, but this project may complicate the traffic a little bit further.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm your neighbor, 44 Snyder Hill Road. And so I hear you. I know the steepness and the safety issues that Quarry Road has. And I truly believe that's when you say we have a particular opportunity to look at this piece of property, huge piece of property, is being zoned as residential, to have a different vision for developing that particular area. So thank you for your comments, and I hear you.
Thank you.
All right, so right.
So this is, as typically we do put a site plan before the planning board for review and recommendation. When they received the application last month, they did not see enough to make a decision based on that. So so going forward, you wouldn't have their recommendation unless you got a more robust application in the door.
Yeah, and there was no, did you? Was there even where, because I'm not seeing it, at least the link on the. Meeting docs, is there a separate page where there was seeker information even filled out?
There is a seeker submitted in this application, yeah. It's just a short form.
It's in the application.
That's.
So the planning board did not have a resolution or a conclusive statement. They just felt
No.
there wasn't enough information or.
Right. That's their statement, very affirmatively, but there was not enough information to base a recommendation on.
So that with the, with all the lack of information we have from the applicant, we recommend the town board. that This project should not. Says with the motion is with all the public input and the lack of information, this is the planning board motion. We have from the applicant, we recommend to the town board that this project should not move forward, and it was unanimous.
That's what I remember.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, because I mean, the applicant, there's really no. Description of all of the activity that would go on and I mean, anybody who's seen a contractor yard knows they tend to grow in activity, not stay tiny. So I don't think we could move forward without the traffic study in the way, I mean, study and probably a full EAF even.
But is there? Is there?
But I also don't see how, I mean, knowing I live just pretty close by too, how.
Right, I don't want to ask somebody to go and invest time and money into that effort. If it's clear that this area is not zoned for this, if there's no greater good for the local residents to override the zoning. The roads are not developed for both the tractor trailer access. Do we ask the resident, the owner to go and do all this work if likely not going to pass anyway?
Yeah, our special use permits are made to see if there's enough conditions that can be put on a special use permit to make it compatible with the neighborhood, so.
Will not adversely affect the neighborhood.
Right. And then Rick, I forget, is Quarry a town road? So it's the same kind of situation then, as far as maintenance that we had on Charing Cross. With when those gentlemen there had all the fill going in constantly. You're right. So.
Can I just say one thing, you said traffic studies? In the past, you've done that, and I talked to you about.
Speed reduction, I know that.
That's not, you put up that digital thing.
Yep.
And what happens is, it's not really, accurate, because when people see that, they slow down.
Yeah, I think that was probably for the speed study more than counting cars, I think, yeah. But it's also the trucks, I mean, it's. Yeah, I don't get the sense we're gonna move forward with this one unless there's more. I mean, Ray, I suppose.
To see it. I mean, we don't have a lot of detail in the application, so certainly scoping it would be one necessary step.
Yeah.
I know you're raising the concerns are just more studies going to enlighten the application.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really go forward with it the way it is.
So.
Traffic's not the only concern,
Yeah,
so.
no, it's,
No, it's air quality, it's noise, it's traffic, it's just generally fitting in with the neighborhood. As it's developing, it's not turning it into a commercial zone.
no, this area is moving towards more residential and moving away from purposes like this and.
The zoning's there for a reason.
Well, the special use permit's there for a reason too, for us to look at things that might adversely impact the neighborhood. And,
Sorry, can I ask one more question?
Yeah,
So it's already happening. It's already doing it. So what's the process now that would shut it down? I mean, it's happening as we speak, right?
well,
Shouldn't be happening.
you'd end up, I mean, code enforcement would go over there and you'd have to.
Right, so it's an unpermitted operation right now. That's why we had the applicant.
Right. So I mean, they'd have to
So that's
cease
something.
operations.
So it would be a stop work order, yeah.
Yeah, right.
and if that's violated, there's a fine. It's not millions of dollars, but it's a fine.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, at this point then, right, do we need to just do a resolution?
If you're making a decision, it should be
Yeah.
through resolution.
Um. Okay, well, I'll just move that we deny the application. Unless they, you know, I mean, we can't stop them from trying to come back while we have, but you know. They'd have to come back with substantially more information and
Based on what we have
based on
here,
what we have.
we
yeah.
think that adverse impacts on the neighborhood are too great.
Right, I mean, there's a lot, based on the lack of information about. Traffic noise, air quality. And then the negative and
The volume.
the volume of comments against the project's compatibility with the neighborhood. I would just move to deny it.
Second.
Yeah, all seconding it.
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna open the next public hearing then. The next one is for a drive-through facility at 2207 Dryden Road. It's another special use permit. This is an amendment to an existing permit already.
Yeah.
No, this is,
Existing,
This is the site plan review for this business.
yeah, I'm gonna give them a-
Oh, I don't know what it is.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you.
All right, good work, Ken.
Thank you.
Don't need to find another thing to do with the property. Yeah, I don't want to say we don't want to see anything done.
Yeah.
It's Jason, can you make the Graham Feldman co-host for W icon?
Yep.
Doesn't look like they should have gained.
It's not letting me do that as.
For additional studies, you're right, that would be an easy thing for us to request, but not really fair.
Who's unfair, yeah.
We've done that before. But I don't think it's, at the end of the day, I don't think it's.
fair.
This was on Route 13.
To us, what it is.
That can handle that kind of traffic, it'd be different. But-
Hi, do you want us to start?
It's up to Jason.
Yeah, you can just say.
I'll do the brief history on it is the fact that this the dispensary here was granted site plan approval by the planning board, because it in that multiple or mixed use commercial district, it only requires site plan review. They're coming back now for special use permit because they want to install a drive-through window. And that's why a special use permit is required by the town board. This did go for review, the recommendations by the planning board. And I forwarded you those minutes.
Okay, go ahead. Hi, thank you, everyone. My name is Jacob Von Mecco with Whittam Planning and Design. We've been engaged by the Dryden Dispensary to talk to you about the drive-through facility that they're seeking a special use permit for. My colleague Graham is sharing the site plan as it has been submitted, showing some updates to the vehicle access. This site is located at the corner of Irish Settlement Road and Dryden Road, or Route 13. I'm sure pretty much everyone has probably had an opportunity to drive by and see they are currently open and operational. The purpose of the drive-through window is to provide multiple ways for customers to pick up the merchandise from this business. Particularly, it provides some privacy for people coming by car around the back side of the building on the south side. So when we met with the planning board in May, they had some requests for some additional information, which we have included on this updated site plan, including some proposed traffic control signage to make sure that the one-way drive-through lane is clearly marked and signed so that there isn't any confusion for people visiting here or any conflicts, as well as some lighting and a canopy over the window so it can maintain operational in inclement weather. This drive lane is off of Irish Settlement Road, so the intention of this is that it will have less traffic impact than the existing entrance on Route 13. It is over 100 feet from the road to the window, so that meets the town's code requirements for traffic queuing for a drive-through facility. But in order for the window to become open and operational along with the rest of the building, it requires a special use permit. And so we are here today to request that.
Question. So, first off, let me just say I'm not being negative. I've already had two people who are older and have some mobility problems tell me that they're thrilled by the idea of this because they would like to not get out of their car. Oh, I'm sorry. Happily. But one thing that I personally have observed at various different drive-throughs, I won't mention any popular coffee shops by name, is that the queues can get quite long and people start literally backing up the road. So one question I would have, is there any ability to have a do not block traffic or vehicles cannot wait beyond this point, must wait, must go inside or something to that effect, so that we don't end up creating a traffic hazard should this this shop become extremely popular, as many coffee shops sometimes are.
Good question. That was my question at the planning board. So we think alike, and they have a great answer. So.
Do you want to field that one?
Hi, everyone. So my name is Andrew Bacon. And so the answer to it is that we've found that our customer base likes to use online. And we've made that very simple. And then how that integrates with the drive-through pickup is that our customers are able to place an order online, select a time that they would be within a 15-minute deviation, able to stop by the location and pick up their order. So their commitment is that they are within that 15 minutes of the pickup time. If for some reason they can't make it, no big deal. They can just come into the store and pick up their order as normal. So it's really a convenience thing, and it is very much about time.
So to clarify, the drive-through is only for pre-ordered, pre-scheduled.
Pre-ordered and prepaid.
So you don't spontaneously decide to go through the drive-through like you might for your coffee. You
I
have,
can
you
think
would
of
have,
one person who'll be very disappointed by that, but they will deal.
you have to pick your slot.
Was there a sign though that keeps people from spontaneously going through the drive-through?
Yeah, so there will be signage, there's nothing in place now. There would be signage at the very entrance that is, it's a regulatory type of sign. And it states that these are prepaid orders only. And another important aspect of the program is that it's a one person in a vehicle only. That's a super strict rule. And if it is that they have others, again, no problem, but they have to come inside.
So it's get waved through and told to park. So if someone shows up with two people in the car, they'll just be waved.
Yeah,
Waved through and told to park.
they'll be asked to come up to the parking lot and come in. There's also another rule in place where the ID on the order slip has to match the ID of the person pulling up. Yeah. Thank you.
Have any other questions from the board here?
Well, I see the recommendations from the planning board. Were those incorporated in the SGP and the special use permit?
I'm sorry, what was?
I see the recommendations from the planning board. Were those already incorporated into the special use permit?
Yeah, the one thing that wasn't totally clarified was some of the lighting, so that's why the draft resolution has one condition already populating it
Okay.
to be compliant with our sign,
Okay.
with our lighting.
Do we have any questions or comments from the public who's here? Or Zoom? Okay, so you just have to keep this open for another couple of minutes. Move on to something else. If you could just stop sharing that real quick, because I can.
And go ahead and turn it.
Yep. All right. So I guess the next thing we'll just jump into, and then we'll come back, we're gonna come back to this, I have to leave it open for 15 minutes, so got another, I don't know, probably 7-8 minutes. So first up, there's it's a resolution for use of Dryden's Business Loan Fund. So. Dan, I know there are some folks here for that.
We have Rich Cunningham here, who is coordinating the program for us. If I could just remind everybody, the business loan fund is something that the town of Dryden set up. I think 4 or 5 years ago, might have been 6.
A little bit.
Based on money that was awarded in the year 2000 to the town of Dryden, and it was loaned out, and some of it came back, and some of it didn't, but we were able to recover about $210,000 to invest in local businesses. And we're excited to have a local business that is appropriate for this business loan fund. We have certain standards that have to be met in terms of income and the type of employees that we can hire. So this was off again. The type of employees that we can hire need to be low and moderate income. And it needs to kind of meet our standards of what we want to see public dollars invested in. The rate is below prime. And so it's an attractive rate. This particular business, I think we're pretty excited about. We have a loan committee that has reviewed this application. They've gone through the Small Business Development Center down in Binghamton to have business plan developed. And our loan committee met about 2 weeks ago and went over this. And we are pretty excited. And I think once we start this type of investment in the community. Other businesses will see that we do this well, and maybe we'll pick up more applicants for this program. So I'll let Rich Cunningham from Tuma Development talk a little bit more.
You didn't leave anything for me.
Oh, you know the beach house better than anyone, and
So, yeah, just to reiterate, the business loan program is from HUD Small Cities Community Development Block Grant funds that came back to the town. So it still has the federal requirements, so funds need to meet a low to moderate income benefit, which is through the creation of jobs for low to moderate income persons. And that includes the types of jobs as well as the incomes of the people taking those jobs. But that said, the loan funds can be used for quite a few different activities. You do have the memo that kind of breaks down all of the information. Again, the loan committee reviewed the application, reviewed the business plan, the financials, to make sure that it's a good, solid investment for you. This business would be taking up space in a downtown Dryden storefront that is currently vacant. There's a few things. Again, the interest rate is at 60% of prime at the time of approval, based on Wall Street Journal's rates. So I think that's 5.1% at this point. Everything else is really in your list there. There's just a couple of additional recommendations that were not talked about in the loan committee that you can decide whether you want to, if you decide to approve this, whether you want to approve those as part of the approval. One would be that there would be payments would start 6 months after closing to give them time to get up and running, start showing that cash flow. The loan committee did have concerns about, since the owner was being considered a job creation, that the pull out, the take out, the draws, the salary from the business would be limited. So we put that in at 1.25 times average salary of a full-time equivalent employee. And that there would be 12 months to complete the hiring process. So there's an opportunity to ramp up the jobs because it's very hard to create them initially at the beginning. So I think that's pretty much it. So I don't know if there's any questions or not. Keeping in mind that this does involve some confidential business information. So depending on the questions, you may or may not want to put an executive session if there's certain details about that.
And I'll just add one other thing. So Chris Cushman was here earlier.
Yes.
Our agenda got fairly full and she had to go run her class, which is what she does on Thursday night, which is one of the reasons we were attracted to this project, is that she's got a group of people already that she's leading in this craft work that she does.
Yeah, that was one of the appealing things linked to the loan committee, was that the business not only was providing a retail site, was also doing classes and training and bringing people in and providing a community asset in addition to just a retail store.
My
I think we-
understanding is we have to, and this maybe is one of the things we're not, that would have to be an executive session discussion, but we'd have to decide whether or not which positions in the business qualify as job creation. Is that my understanding?
Any of there's a dollar amount per job as part of your regulations or requirements in the program. They're looking at 2 part-time positions equaling 1 full-time equivalent job, both of which would be low to moderate income eligible positions.
Correct.
I don't know if that answered what your question or not.
Answer the question.
But we also have the option of the management of the department also, sorry, management of the business also being potentially listed as a full-time position, but that's up to this board, correct?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the loan program is limited to 35,000 per job created. So 1 full-time equivalent gets a loan of 35,000. The committee felt it's not typical that the owner of the business gets counted as a job creation. But given the project and the limited draws that they were looking to take, they felt that that was appropriate to allow that to be considered in this case.
Excellent.
And that's why I put in there kind of 1.25.
Yeah, I want to make sure I understood that correctly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
Dan, do you have any?
Well, I just pointed, you may have noticed her sign on the storefront at the corner. I guess her lease has already started because her sign's out front.
I believe we did provide the draft lease. I'm not sure if that's signed yet, but I think she's all set. One of the.
She's ready to go to work.
When we look at this, we obviously want to look at feasibility issues. Do they have the other financing in place? You know, what's the likelihood of financial success? Do they have a location? And obviously she does.
And the repayment rate, just in case you missed it, is pretty aggressive, and she's agreed to it.
Yep.
Right, a 3-year repayment.
3-year repayment.
So that's how this thing revolves. We get the money back, we loan it out again.
Yep. Right. And that does figure predetermined program guidelines that identified types, the length of the loan compared to the types of use. Like if you're using to buy real estate, it was longer. So this fits your pre-established guidelines.
Yep. Yeah, it's a good storefront addition to the village, so.
I love that building.
Do you have a question? We usually don't take questions, but we're informal enough.
Oh, no, that's fair. I just have taken some of her classes. I'm one of her really good friends.
Oh, cool.
And so I don't mean to interrupt.
What's your name?
What's your name?
She and I have been texting back and forth and she wants to know what's going on. Yeah, so Chris started knitting quite a while ago, and she really has a heart, especially for like, you know, moms and kids, and so she's had classes all over the place. This has been going on for quite a while. She taught me to knit, she can teach me to knit, she can teach anybody. But you know, one of the things that we've really seen come out of this is, you know, right now, you know, she's down at what she calls the Stitch and Sip nights down at Corner Brew. And it's just a big table of people working on projects together, and it has been amazing to just sit and gather and work on our projects and talk about. I have gotten a lot of great parenting advice for my boys from these meetings. So it really has been just a good time. This is a really great project to be investing in.
So part of my due diligence, I reached out to a knitter I know and asked what, you know, what the market would be like for something like this. And she said, there's nothing like this in the area. There's no business like it in the area. And this particular knitter thought that this would be a place that she'd want to go right away.
I have gone on vacations and literally gone to knitting stores out of state because it is such a rare treat to have a really quality knitting store.
While you're on vacation?
Yes,
Okay.
Now you don't have to go anywhere
it's
else.
very stress reducing. It's just, no,
Yeah,
I noticed that Chris was knitting while she was here.
yeah.
recommend it.
And this is the type of business that is, we've run programs like this in other communities, and this is the type of business that is very typical of a good recipient. You know, small, locally owned, locally driven business in a downtown area, so.
Okay.
And I think we did provide a draft resolution.
Yes.
Yeah,
With you.
We all have it.
I can share it.
It's on the meeting document site. Anyone wants to look at it?
I just put it up on the screen too.
Yes, I want to move this resolution. I have great confidence in this particular applicant and the research that we've done prior to this and the fact that she's putting her own skin in the game. It's gonna be a good first use of this fund.
A second.
Yes.
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 Yes. Cool. Thank you.
Thanks. I will say I did bring a copy of the guidelines. So if anybody else is looking for a business loan.
And wants to work with us.
For the program. Good. And we will be working with your local attorney and having them review any security agreements, loan agreements, those types of things before the closing.
Okay, great.
Great job on this.
Thanks. Good first one.
Tournament development. Good work.
They're not always as good. You don't always get as good ones come through the door. So we're lucky we got a good one for the first one.
Yeah,
All right.
this is great.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All So now we're gonna go back to the public hearing for the drug dispensary. I'm gonna close it. And then in the application, we had the short form EAF.
No, this is actually type 2 as a
Type 2 is what we
reuse
need.
of a commercial space.
So we don't even need that.
So part of the resolution has that affirmation of the seeker determination.
Good. Where's the resolution?
That's on the project review website.
Not on the, so I have to go here to planning.
Wow, screen share.
Yeah. Oh, you.
And the 239 letter did just,
Yeah.
there's no negative impacts.
Right, yeah, so there's no negative impacts. Okay, well, we can, where's the CNA for the lighting to confirm to the guidelines, was there anything from? Nothing for B though?
No, I just usually put that in blank in case there's something that comes
I
out of the meeting.
didn't have any. So I'll move this as. It's written.
Second. Yes.
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 Yes, you could.
Very cool, thanks guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you for coming.
So next up, I'm gonna go to the. Request for proposal for the consultant that we want to hire to. Kind of tell us what. The lands behind town hall could best be. Well, the things that, based on the wetland delineation, what. We can potentially do back there. So there's just there's a couple of things that came in. With it. There, man, we received the housing committee's resolution. So everybody knows what's in that. And this. So this is the RFP, that was put together by the. The RIC working with, Conservation Board and Housing and all the other. Stakeholders, The purpose is to hire a consult, like I said, to hire a consultant to, help us figure out what can and can't be done back there based on that wetland delineation. So I'd just like to move that we adopt this. I guess the only real other development since this was developed was that Rick and I spoke with Bernie Cornelius and he had stated that we could, you know, he gave us permission to, the town permission to have the consultant also look at his parcel as part of this, because it's all behind town hall. It's stuff that property he still owns on the on the map that's posted that shows the boundary line agreement. It's, his section is nope. His is, the one he continues to own is parcel A, the town was gifted parcel B. The other, well, I mean, like you can kind of see the little pointer. The town already owned this. So in any case.
You said again about parcel A.
So parcel A is what Bernie's Cornelius still owns.
Okay.
He gifted parcel B to the town already owned this. So what the consultant would be looking at then would be the entirety of all these lands to advise about the list of different possible uses.
And those wetland indicating,
Yeah, that's not the wetlands delineation.
that's not, right?
No, that's just what was filed.
Considered swamp with whoever did this, but that's not reflected in the map that we have.
Yeah, that's not the wetlands delineation. It's just, that's what,
Yeah.
that this is the, so this was the file. And with the county clerk. It's the survey map, essentially, so.
Because it looks like a good 2/3 of that.
Yeah,
Parcel B is developable without threatening wetlands.
yeah, that's not the wetland delineation, so. Yeah,
Well, it says swamp. If you look real close.
so in any case, that's the only, but as far as the wording of the RFP, I don't know that it.
You ever like me where the ball fields are going?
That's what the consultant's.
Yeah,
gonna
that's.
for. So, I mean, obviously you can't go on wetland, so.
So
Yeah.
That is the intent, is, my understanding is that understand, what areas exactly we could do are usable.
Right.
So that we can identify and then ideally move forward with outdoor recreation space. And that, my understanding is then the housing board has asked that rather than do a future study down the line, we would at least understand
so
potential for other uses.
So like Dave.
I'm a little confused here. So now the consultant will be looking, to have a comprehensive plan for both parcels, the parcel A and parcel B.
So I have to be dealing with the town already on, so they can look at all.
The town will be paying for a consultant for private lands.
He's giving it to us.
He's,
B,
he gave to.
Yes. But
And then the other property, well, because it's all. It's property that's behind there, and this is not unprecedented. I mean, the other towns have done this for areas that where they're considering development. They've done, like, town of Ithaca's done charrettes for the area. Right up near East King Road in the corner where the other Purity used to be, and I know this because they did it because it was a client of mine. They did an entire development charrette for that area, so that's just to say, this is what we would like there. So basically, what they can come in and say. They can first of all tell us where the best land back there is, if you're talking about. In any of those uses,
Including access routes.
right, including that.
We don't have an agreement for those lands. It's just a conversation.
But this isn't.
Somebody had with.
This also isn't a design, they're not designing a development here, that's not what this is for. So, I mean, this is not a design RFP. So it's,
And it wouldn't be a significant, huge additional investment in funds,
right,
at least.
well, the thing is, we have a
decide that
budget.
When we get an RFP, then we would know if it would even be additional money.
Yeah, we first, and then we have to see if anyone even responds to this too, because we want to get it out.
So the original, the original intent was to ask for a comprehensive plan for the land that was gifted plus the land that the town already had,
A comprehensive plan is something completely different. This is an assessment of the property to see what could potentially be used there. It's not a.
Is that comprehensive?
We use that word in
Study.
RFP, and
Yeah,
we
there's-
need to reword this, because provide a comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
It's in the RFP.
I mean, I think it's not, I don't think it's comprehensive plan like the town comprehensive plan, but it's not.
But it's a comprehensive plan use of the land.
I thought it was a use study, to understand what it can be used for. Like all the options.
Right, that's the purpose of it.
What's the difference?
Yeah.
I think we're getting caught in semantics.
Well,
Semantics.
the plan would we be committing to saying, yes, this will be this and this will be that
Right.
versus.
We're not gonna make
Other options.
choices.
Well, can jump video, call it start.
As a member of the housing committee, I have a few things, but I mean, just say, there's nowhere else in my life where my hearing seems to be going. But sitting in this room, even in the first row, I can't hear almost anything any of you say. I really, all of you, okay.
That's a blessing and a curse.
Okay, the idea, I'm sure, Leonardo's concerned, I mean, when we, and on the county legislature, we did this kind of thing a lot, when you say, so comprehensive plan, it's not like Plan 2045, it's like you want the consultant to review all the options. Look at the list of things you'd like to do with it. And say, well, this would go there and that would go there. So the idea of parcel A, when the town doesn't control that, you're not gonna tell Cornelius. Let me just, in the back of my head, it feels like, okay, if the consultant comes out and says, well, you can put housing on parcel A. Well, we know that, you don't need a consultant to tell you that, but he's not gonna do what the town says. So let me just say, the resolution that came out of the housing committee. And I spoke with Leslie the other day, DOIC, and we talked it through a lot, and the issue of, just for them, was no curveball about Cornelius's land, which is not the land you all control.
Right.
The optimal use of the town's land, which is what I thought this was about. The housing committee looked at the list of things and felt that, and are very concerned that if the multi-use recreational center, sort of standalone building, much bigger thing than we heard about, were considered in using the town land, that would necessarily crowd out the land that really would be usable for housing. We sort of looked at all of this and said, there's got to be a way to meld the housing needs and the recreational needs, but the rec center sort of seems to swamp where you, no pun intended, where you put the housing. But since the RFP talks about asking for 2 plan options, seems to be a common sense idea, just ask that one plan include the recreation center as an option and one plan not include that.
Right.
So that the town board then will have the most options, have the best thinking of the consultant either way. And they're not going to specifically go ahead and design everything, but you should be able to really get a good picture from a good consultant of, what some of the options would look like. So I can't go into detailed design because what really would matter. Now, I think the issue of Mr. Cornelius's land parcel A. You know, it'd be great if he also does housing, but it seems to me that the town's land is a unique asset. And especially because the town would have the sort of authority and financial ability, say, to write down the cost of the land, and then that would be for housing, and then bring in, for example, INHS that does. I'm pointing for Leslie because she works for INHS. They do a wonderful job of the housing trust program, where they hold the value of the land and they build for sale housing for people who are income qualified, for low moderate income people to be able to buy a home at a lower cost because INHS holds on to the land. They're only buying the house, they're not buying the land. So that makes ownership way more accessible. INHS is doing this in Freeville already. The Varna project includes, am I right, Leslie? The Varna project includes that kind of like 5 or 6 homes. 7 homes, so
Yeah.
with the same model.
Okay.
Where the agency holds on to the value, so that's something you all can do.
Yeah.
That's something you all can do to town, but Mr. Cornelius is not, is not gonna do.
Well, he's interested in single family homes most likely, so I think our preference would be if we're gonna put housing on this land, we're gonna want as many beds as possible, so
Sure.
I would be more interested in multifamily housing in this area if we do housing there.
So if the town does housing, then the town will put multifamily and get many more apartments, let's say.
Yeah.
And Mr. Cornelius could do singles for sale.
Yeah,
Or-
I just want to be really careful that we don't lose sight of what started this whole process,
Right.
which was to
Sure.
create for the benefit of anyone in housing, future housing or existing housing, is that we create a healthy green space, outdoor well-being space for the community. So I just want to make sure we don't lose sight of that. Because it's starting to feel like this is becoming a housing
I think
thing.
we lost sight of the whole thing because Mr. Cornelius donated their land, ball fields. And all of a sudden, everybody jumps out.
It's not in there. It's not there.
All right, if I can just.
We're not, yeah, we're not,
Frank.
we don't need to go back and.
That language is not in there.
Nobody could read this RFP and think that housing is the main purpose of it. It's enormously clear that the main purpose is recreation. And by the way, there are slopes on this land within this site that will cost a fortune to put a ball field on a hill.
We don't have to argue about this stuff right now.
Okay. So the housing committee is convinced both purposes can be beautifully served. Thank you.
I just want to reflect back to the RFP. The purpose of the RFP is what is outlined in there. You're gonna look
Right.
at the space, they're gonna give you prices, and then you're gonna choose the best entity who bid on your RFP, correct?
Yeah.
That's a simplified answer. So all the other things, the tangents were going on, the board's gonna go back and see what's presented to you. And then move forward. It doesn't cost any money to do that other than the time to develop the RFP. which
Right.
is already been spent.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to, I'll get back to where we started.
Right.
Yeah,
So then I'll just.
would you mind just clarifying what Bernie stipulated for parcel A? How that fits?
Just to include in this
He
study.
suggested that we include it.
No, me and Rick called him and asked if we could, because we know that the. Housing committee's got an interest in housing and he had, that's one reason why he was reserving it. I don't know that he wouldn't consider even. I mean, let me put it this way, he is willing to, he wants to work with the town. So.
So we should-
without making- So I think.
We should connect INHS with Bernie
Right.
as soon as possible.
I think that would be better.
Okay, we were both up by the way.
Yeah, but they're not like, yeah, so the thing is this, it's like, if. Well, when we talk to these consultants and, if. They should also, I think, look at that, because if they come back and say. There's not enough, if there's one area where everything everyone wants, the one way is use that.
How do we fit that in, like
I
with
think it'd just be in the description of the
an
land,
additional private parcel of how many acres is that?
22.
23 acres roughly.
It's like the same size as parcel B.
Could be considered for additional housing options. And but it's a private land.
Right, it's not controlled by the town, but, you know, I think.
Interest has been expressed for making this land a part of a housing.
But they could come back and say,
So let me ask you for, is the parcel A from Cornelius is within the village, right? Okay.
All of this is within.
So that area is zoned residential, by the way. All this area is zoned by the village of Dryden as residential. Okay, that's part of it's part of their zoning map. You can see it there. So
Well,
I don't feel at the moment, because the original intent is precisely coming back to the intent.
Yeah.
To develop the recreational fields, the infrastructure surrounding about, the whole entire controversy became this recreation community center. Then the housing committee is now saying, look, why don't we ask for this, the parcel B plus the town lot, why don't we ask for 2 plans? One or 2 styles, one with the recreation center and without, both maximizing the possibility of developing housing in that particular land. That's what we are asking for. It's very simple. Everybody's interest will be served by having that kind of study presented to us. And I think the reason Mr. Cornelius, if he is interested in developing his own housing program or development, can pay for an assessment or study on, on his own. And the town should not, in my view, should not be involved in paying for private interests.
so
That's my take.
here's
my
my question would be is, what if they came back and they said, well, here's these things you could do if you had this little bit of land from Cornelius, or if you had a access road through that property, if we already know what's usable or not.
That is a land that we
That
don't,
could help us.
that is a land that doesn't belong to the town. We don't control what Mr. Cornelius will or will not do.
But it could inform us if we wanted to.
That is unconditional. We don't conditional language.
Well, I mean, we. I think we.
And especially if it's money. It's town money, taxpayer town money that is being involved in a study for a private interest.
So it's sort of like when they give money to the housing.
It's the same private interest that, but Leo, this is important. It's the same private interest that donated a same size parcel to the town.
Right.
So let's not make him out to be, just, personally interested in outcomes here, because he's made a gift to the town.
Right.
We in our own, right away to his property. On our own, budget as reciprocating for this gift. So we already reciprocating to this particular owner.
But I think
with a substantial amount of resources.
I think any reasonable assessment would say we got the better end of the deal. If they had to get a ton of property like that. That's your fact. Unless you're a taxpayer.
My question is very simple. Does the town of Dryden want to buy parcel A from Cornelius?
There is no plan for
Do they
that.
have any plans for Cornelius to donate parcel A to the town?
We don't know.
We don't know.
I don't know, so I understand what Leonard's saying is that now you are very well able to pay out of taxpayer funds for a private property for possibly him to make money on it. Because we have no control.
Well, we don't know that because we haven't gotten an RFP. We haven't, I'm saying we don't know if we'd invest money, because until the RFP comes back, they might come back and say, it's gonna cost you $3,000 regardless of whether that piece of land is included or not. We don't know.
It doesn't matter what the money is, the principle. And in my view,
I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. It's not land, it's controlled by the town. Why are we paying, using taxpayer money for a consultant to research all this on private? That's just.
It kind of distorts their process, because let's say they.
it's not what
Let's say you could do this if you have that corner of Cornelius's land, but you don't have it, so then you can't execute.
It might inform if we want to ask for.
Inform us if we want to do something like that.
A beautiful rectangle of land. They're gonna put a road right where it's got a road on the other side. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, how we can put single family homes on.
No.
We need a consultant.
I don't think I'm being clear. What I'm wondering is what if more of that land on our parcel could be developed? If we would have more opportunities because of adjacencies, that's all. Like maybe we could get more housing if we ask for a donation for a right of way through there or something. I don't know until a study's done, but I didn't know if maybe we could get more for what we have.
I'm sorry. I've been on the receiving end of working with the consultant, this kind of thing. And the more options, especially options that are not actionable, the more options you give them, the more they're wasting their time. And time is money, and you're gonna get what you pay for. So you really probably want to put a boundary around their options. So the thing that you could do on your own, and that's not the idea. And if, let's say they said, well, we really try to get housing here, but it really needs that swamp. But you don't have that. You don't have that swamp. If you really want to be able to move and implement what they propose, we should ask them, draw up the best possible plans that you would implement.
right?
And you can't implement something using land you don't own. This reduces things, makes it actually harder for them. You'll get a much muddier result of that. If you won't be able to do.
I'll come back to the original RFP. And again, ask, simply for the amendment. The friendly amendment. Then instead of asking for one plan, we ask for two plans. One with the regulation center and with community center, and one without. And the study will be focused on the land that the town already owns.
I think I'm part of the problem with the parcel A is we don't have the wetlands delineation for it. I mean, they're going, but yeah, well. I think it's pretty, some of that would have to be wetlands, so we couldn't do anything there until we paid for another delineation study in parcel A. I think that is a restricting feature, and we definitely can't pay for Bernie's wetlands delineation. So I think we should just look for a way to address, mutual goals for development of parcel A. And try and move this thing along.
What did you say about parcel A?
I said that we do not have a wetlands delineation map for parcel A, and it can't be touched until it's done, and the town's not gonna pay for that. That's not town property. And so to do any sort of plans for this consultant, for them to do their work, they're gonna say, well, we can't suggest anything until you do a delineation.
Absolutely.
So we're kind of restricted on that. I hate to say it. All right, but I have a curveball to throw out there. Wouldn't you expect it? You know, we're looking at some space behind Neptune that might accommodate a new EMS structure. And I know there's not a lot there, but I'd be curious if there's any way that we could donate what we have that isn't in a wetland to Dryden Ambulance for consideration for a new space. Because that would be a great location for a bigger EMS center. I'm curious to know who owns that land right next to our land. And I don't suppose anyone here knows off the top of their head. Rick, do you know?
What are you talking about?
This land over here.
The one right here?
Yeah, so we have that sliver that's not
You're talking about
wetlands.
this part here.
Yeah, that's ours, but who owns that stuff? Right, yeah,
That's not wetlands?
well, we don't know.
Where?
Yeah.
What looked like a little green area, a pond. Yeah, that, yeah.
Going down here?
No. Right there. That's Neptune's land, it looks like.
We're right near where the parking lot is?
Mhm.
You think where the helipad is?
That's the helipad? No.
7.92 acres.
Is that black circle? Cause I've seen helicopters land at across the street from where the bay doors are.
They have, but that, when you said there's windsock right on the other side of the bridge there.
Oh.
Landing helicopters.
Oh.
You've got easy access back there.
Oh.
Town of Dryden, and then it's Dryden Fire Department, Dryden Fire Department, Dryden Fire Department, they have 3 different departments. That's it.
So that's okay, so that area would be out now.
What if we went, what about, who's this? I guess that's not quite as convenient to Neptune Drive.
Well, the other parking area behind, that's next to where Neptune's parking area is with that Amish. The Amish structure place, and then there's the coffee, drive-through place.
You want to know?
I'm just
Isn't that,
joshing.
isn't that Kenny? Is that Kenny Drugstore?
I don't know, I mean,
It's Kenny, hasn't it? And then they have, he's behind him. It's like-
Yeah, that's probably not helpful and
Okay.
it doesn't look like the land that we have that's closest to Neptune is developable due to the delineation.
Yeah, I thought that was wetland.
all right. So why don't we just not bother with that?
Yeah, I was thinking that this was closer.
Okay,
right.
so I'll just move the RFP. I guess. I mean, Leslie, do you care 2 plans?
I'm fine with the plans, I wanted to just build on that, and I never thought we could put my time in this back on. First up, when we're kind of a community center, we're not necessarily talking about like, we're gonna build the YMCA. Part, even if we had a spot, we had another summer camp.
Yeah.
Great. And community center, tied in with multi-use affordable housing project, funders love that. And it would be something that we put together to do, if we're going to do some of the possibilities.
Yeah.
And it can be the meeting and so it's just want to throw that out there, like, it is something that we work in collaboration.
I think it's something that would fit in with what the Empire State Development looks for every July. Because if we have a really good plan for next year's applications, you can put it in.
Well, it's in part of the building and also. Yeah, it could be together, and then I think it would be a way where you do at least with the town, and we've done like long term very back, this is like. Action, whether it's really head start, we're not really abundant, I don't remember what they came back, but it's like just long term use. Say that it was probably the town, so it's not dependent on just walking and use it. Part of it, and we have like one still. So I just like, because they do, I think people panic because of all the costs and stuff, and it's like, this is out of the box, way looking at it. You know, to find a way to make it doable, like, yeah, HDR would love to see that too. But probably do that, yeah, there's so many housing grants out there, they do love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, the RFP already says 2 plans, you already asked them. for
Yeah.
plan. So this would just specify that one should include the rec center and the other one should not, so you have the option.
Yeah, which I did say, like, that's fine, I mean, honestly, it's all like, you guys are easy, you're gonna get, because there's wetlands, right? I mean,
Right.
we really don't know, and I feel silly fighting over all this, but like, until a consultant told us what we have to do.
Yeah,
You know,
I know.
and then we'll fight over it.
Absolutely.
And the only thing that the RFP is, I mean, well, unclear, the representative on the planning committee from the housing committee and another one from the conservation board. That's,
Mhm.
that being said,
Yes, that's, I think, sort of here, we said a representative of the conservation board and having been that. The product in the resolution was that we didn't make it clear that we meant one from conservation board, one from.
Oh, yeah,
So that means that one.
okay.
that's great.
Thank you, Liz.
All right, so we'll move over those 2 amendments. And then- Well, it's already drafted. So a couple changes. Yeah, we can get that to you.
I did.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. All right, good.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, Liz.
Okay, next up is the approval of. So this is for the municipal cooperative agreement for the.
Jason, Chuck raised his hand. I'm not sure if you want.
Chuck.
Yep. I'm good.
Where?
Thank you. I'll be brief. Thank you for the vote that's just taken place. I think having the 2 plans looked at side by side is a really wise move for all of us. I guess the thing I wanted to emphasize as a member of the Housing Committee is that for probably the better part of a year, our committee has looked very hard at what we tend to call the town lands issue, particularly the lower 2 sections of it. And it's consistently been our position to find ways to harmonize increasing residential use of the area, those areas that are not subject to wetlands or floodplains or buffer zones, but are sloped. How to harmonize the residential needs of the town, which scream very loudly in Dryden 2045, and the health needs and all of the other benefits that come from playing fields and recreational development. So I want to thank you for that. And I just, I'm hoping that we'll have an opportunity to talk to whatever consultant is hired about more of the fine points. But going back to Dan's curveball, I think there's actually a lot to think about there, assuming that land could be developed as an EMS site. One of the things I keep running into is that if you build recreation and residential development close to a jurisdiction, which we certainly are in this case, you're going to have injuries and health problems. The closer they are to the municipality, the more money you save, not having to chase out into remote areas where affordable housing is often hidden away for whatever reason, if it exists at all. So the fact that they would be potentially quite proximate to the town and to EMT kinds of assistance could end up saving us a lot of money. And I wanted to underscore that point. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so thanks, Chuck. All right, so next thing that's up is the There's a cooperation, a municipal cooperative agreement for the Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium. It's a updated agreement that I need to be able to sign and forward on. So that we can have the they can be, there's a certificate of authority that can be updated for the whole consortium. So I'll just move. So it has for permission to sign this on behalf of the town. So they could forward it on to the consortium.
I'll second that.
Yes.
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 Yes, all right. Thank you. And the next thing up, we just have highway. Rick, do you have anything for us? Or- No, we can zip through the rest of this stuff if you want, so.
Like 3/4 of the way through the Sui Forum, we started back in January.
Oh, wow. What,
We got our mowing done for the first round, we're going back for the second. Gonna meet with Brenda Roth from Chips today. Tell us the new rules, the ins and outs, the years of service on the roads. Street line for Livermore Road should be installed next week. We do have a contractor for the DPW project. We have some finals for that. Here on paper, so I gotta finish the zoning permit. Ran into a couple of snags with the sewer down in Forest Home Drive. Got one, so we got about 18 inches to cover, we gotta do a little manipulation of that. We're probably gonna have to replace it, but we're gonna do it now, which later, just make sure it's done. Manhole repairs will probably start next week, for a lot of the iron drive, we found a lot of leaks. Plug them off and most of them was apparently wide this week, so moving forward.
okay. Well, thank you, Rick.
So the streetlight on Livermore is at 392?
Yeah.
Wow, okay, that'll make my client happy, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Rick, I do want to let you know, I had a town member approach me and tell me how much they appreciate the planning that's going on to deal with creek issues along Ellis Hollow Creek Road, and appreciate that you guys were providing local plantings when that area has to be repaired. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Right, right, anything?
Unless there are any questions on the monthly update.
Nope. Chris, you have anything new? I mean, it's really brief.
Yeah.
Like, really brief.
Do you mean brief?
I mean, brief.
So, I guess wanted to lead off with, telling the town board about a remarkable member of the Dryden Fire Department, a friend of mine, Amanda Brayton, who's here, who's just returned from 2 weeks. 3.5, okay, in Eastern Africa, where she went, as a volunteer to begin to share some of her training and what she's learned here in the town of Dryden. Was one of the poorest countries in Africa, the fire service there. So there's been a lot of support from members of the town, fire departments. So I asked Amanda if she wanted to just come on up and really briefly see what she did, and I'll leave it up to her.
Sorry, past my time.
There is a plan to do a presentation at our station.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of community folks, Rotary, who wants, we have supported her in this, so
The plan was to do a presentation down there, put it up on the big screen and make it open to the public.
Oh, cool. Great, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, if you feel like it. Yeah. Up to you if you want.
I'll just keep it brief. It just,
I do have a plan to do a presentation, but just really quickly, what it was it was doing firefighting first and foremost, and then it was also creating community connections. Like one of our team members trained with their capital, airport, sorry, the airport fire. We trained with their defense force, which is like their air force. So we trained with the Malawi Defense Force. So it was about creating community connections also with their city council, which would be like the equivalent of a town board. And the huge thing that I learned from just meeting with city council in various cities is I appreciate the help that you guys have supported with all of the town of Dryden. Like when you see how poor they are and how little support they get, like I super appreciate that. Also, we learned the huge impact of having direct contact between the board and the fire departments, like being able to have those conversations face to face, good, bad, or ugly. It's really important. And I learned very quickly, like those second, third parties aren't helpful. Being able to speak to you directly and have your support and being able to show you that we give you our support, huge. Like that's a big deal. Like I learned that. And I'm gonna cut it short now.
What country was? You have any? Malawi, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So sort of an unplanned thing here. I didn't realize Amanda was here until the crowd thinned out and I could see her over there. And I also didn't anticipate her being here because she just got back. So and I'm not singling Amanda out. I mean, there's literally hundreds of, great people in the fire departments. But what she did was pretty unique. So, just read today that both the assistance to firefighter grants and safer grants have received funding through fiscal year 2028. The Senate passed the House bill. It's been sent to President Biden for his signature. I think that's pretty much a done deal. So we should be assured of both AFG and safer grants for 4 more years. That's great news. The Dryden, Freeville, and Varna fire departments applied for grants to cover the cost of the diesel exhaust extraction system in each of their stations. I think you remember me talking about this probably almost a year ago now. I got kind of emotional about the need for those things. We should hear about the success of their applications this summer. I'm going to continue. This is another sort of, repeat. I'm going to continue to work with Danielle Schwartz of the Doer. Danielle has been working very hard to bring programs to Tompkins County that would offer peer support to emergency responders that are experiencing PTSD or other mental health issues. So my hope is that, and I've already talked to Danielle a couple times about this, that she would come to the town of Dryden fire departments, basically offer a presentation in terms of this is what this is all about, this is the need, and solicit help. As a matter of fact, I think Amanda is and Tim.
Yeah.
Okay, so the two of them are already kind of in line to get involved with this. So just expanding the network of firefighters in the town of Dryden that'll work on that. What I was seeing is I took the 2-day course with Danielle a couple months ago, is that there's great participation from law enforcement. I was the only fire guy in the class. So really a need to expand into the firefighting community. And the last thing is that the NFPA released their firefighter fatalities report for 2023 today, showing a total of 89 on-duty firefighter deaths. That's the second highest total for 1 year in the past 10 years. Of the 89, 50 were volunteer firefighters, 30 were career, and the remaining 9 were forest rangers or military firefighters. The number of career firefighters dying on the job has been trending down.
with a sharp decrease in deaths due to cardiac events among career firefighters. On the other hand, same time, the number of volunteer firefighters dying from cardiac events has risen sharply, which led the NFPA to observe that additional areas of intervention are needed to address the problem. And that's another project that is near and dear to my heart that I'm working on. So I've got. Thank you.
Thanks. And then, did you all have stuff you wanted? And Mike, you sent the thing about the Groton, an email about that fire. Yeah, thank you for that.
So I wanted to read something tonight. I was not able to make last week's meeting. But I wanted to address the board about some displeasure in watching last week's video. So this is a little bit lengthy, but please bear with me. I'm addressing the board, the fire departments, and community of the town of Dryden. I'm bringing forward some major concerns, as well as addressing past performance actions and lack of professionalism within the town of Dryden coordinator. Several issues have already come to light and have been presented to the town concerning the town coordinator without resolve. I want to discuss the disgust and complete lack of support from the town coordinator regarding the fire that occurred at 10 Groton Ave in Freeville in May. You all have received that letter from our department. Upon my viewing of last week's recorded meeting, his comments were offensive to my staff, members, residents that were nearby, and a complete act of retaliation for not allowing his presence at the call review for the residents and departments directly involved with the incident. Mr. O'Connor is neither a fire department member or affiliated with emergency response to make himself involved in how a department works, responds, the level of response or operations within any department. His actions or opinions of a successful or non-successful fire have no business and have no weight within the town, especially because he was not part of or at the incident. I also find the actions of contacting other departments, non-chiefs, and members about an incident without direct contact with the chiefs or incident commanders involved to gather information is highly unprofessional and undermining to our town departments in the community. It's resulting in distorted or operational opinions being fostered and wrong and highly distorted information being provided to the town without the knowledge of the department in charge, which was the case with the Route 13 fire. These actions will under no circumstances be tolerated by my department. We're not going to allow it. Further, there was a request for a notice of fire and information for the town on the Groton Ave fire. This was addressed, and you did talk about that this was a village incident, not a town incident. I would have contact with Dave Sprout from the town of Dryden Codes, and he assured me it was not him or should not have come from his office since it was in the village of Freeville. It was requested and nobody from the codes department sent it, leaving past inquiries for information on fires highly suspicious as to the sender. The letter written by my deputy chief and treasurer was a great explanation and justification of the actions that what took place at the fire. However, justification to others, and certainly not Chris O'Connor, were not warranted. His involvement with the town contracts led to many frustrating meetings as to the information being required of town departments that were not needed, required by law, or was confidential information not needed or used by the town at all. Which was when we'd asked, how many of you read some of these reports? Many of you had never even seen them. So they weren't needed to start with, to be in a contract. Mr. O'Connor also used the town board as his crutch for the information required by the contract, as you, the town board, were asking for this information. We found out at subsequent meetings to not be the case. In addition, the contract meetings were not inclusive of all board members to have access to and were unaware of the contract talks behind closed doors. Next, his involvement with the budget started as helpful, and his backing to get the fire departments what they needed or by reasonable request was appreciated. When we discussed items or requests, he stated to add them into the town budget, to later find he sent undermining emails to the town board stating how we did not need such items or that they were not useful to the departments or community. I read those. I saw those emails. I know they exist. I used the example of the current Freeville duty chief, 769.
That vehicle, the explanation and approval happened between myself and you, the board, because I had to come in and explain myself. Well, further, it had nothing, our new 769 has had nothing but praise, positive feedback and about response times, equipment, and usefulness of this first response unit from other departments as well as members of the community that appreciate the quick response that we've had with this vehicle. The issue of the SAFER grant has been addressed by the treasurer, as you all heard last week, and has been rectified as far as the emails. But I would like to add that he did not apply for, gather the information, or write the grant. It was done and paid for by the departments, by 10K Grant Writing Services. We, the WB Strong Fire Company, are the administrators of the grant, and we're the ones to oversee the financial aspects for all the departments. But Rebecca, not Chris. To this end, as of today, Chris has been removed as one of the contacts and alternates for the grant and will no longer be involved with the SAFER grant. The FEMA contact has been made aware and will be making the proper notes to the grant. All communication forward will be to myself and Rebecca Moore. Mr. O'Connor did not make the contacts to the company for the station exhaust, but he did make the contacts. He made the contact for them to come down and look at our station and assess. But we, the chiefs, had to follow up to meet with the company. And then again, 10K grant writers did the grant and was paid for by the departments, not done by Chris. Next, Mr. O'Connor position's description has been grossly overlooked when it comes to what he's doing and what is in his description. While he's done a couple of items on his description, such as assist and review or prepare annual budgets, and he did attend a monthly meeting last year at our department, he's not done most of the important things he was asked to do. The largest part of the job description and assistance agreed and needed by all of us was to institute a townwide recruitment and retention program, coordinating townwide and department trainings, assisting in researching and grant writing for the town departments, and other items also listed on his job description. To this point, he's done none of them and most of the important things that we discussed. He's been in the job for 1.5 years now and continues to require more information, statistics, and information not relevant to what he's supposed to be doing. Additionally, he was changed from part to a full-time employee with a significant pay increase without any input or notification to the fire departments, to my knowledge. Mr. O'Connor has also made contact with PESH, having been down for a training, the New York State Comptroller's Office, and others asking questions, which has propagated investigations, inquiry, and audits from a couple town departments thus far. He's behind the scenes doing damage to not only the relationships with the town coordinator, but with the open and transparent communication we have with the town. I feel these are, again, retaliation attempts because he wants more information, stats, and items that were deleted from the contract, and the fact that he's not given all access to individual departments' information. Any inquiry, audits, or investigations forthcoming to any department in the town will be viewed as treated as such. Additionally, I'm asking for the town retaliation policy to be sent to all departments in the town. Further, I'm inquiring as to the special projects, research, and attendance of other departments' trainings up to and including out of town, county, and state. He's most recently attended the Newark Valley Big Water Rural Water Supply Training. Without fire department affiliation, emergency response, or any other affiliation to the fire service, who's signing his training authorization letters to do these? These are required to attend. Who's paying for the time that he's taking to do this, and who's insuring him while he's there? Are you aware he's even doing it? He came away from it giving nothing but praise for the Newark Valley Fire Company, which is a great company, by the way, but critiques to the fullest extent his own town departments. His Facebook posts have been viewed. He's also approached Trumansburg and other departments outside their town and county for information. In addition, Mr. O'Connor, while attending meetings, trainings, and townwide trainings, has been wearing Ithaca lieutenant's attire and gear, as well as Ithaca lieutenant helmet, which he is retired from. He's not affiliated with them. There are liabilities involved, and contact with Ithaca should be made regarding authorization for this, as he's no longer affiliated. Is the town responsible for these actions? Fire department trainings are not open to the public as they present hazards, and authorized affiliated personnel should be in attendance. Instead of coordinating these trainings, he shows up to take pictures and post them.
This is in no way helpful or part of what he's supposed to be doing. In conclusion, with all the questionable actions, concerns, and liabilities, on top of the subsequent undermining of the departments in the town, I speak for just the WB Strong Fire Company operations that we're no longer going to work with a town coordinator assigned as he's not proven to be doing his assigned responsibilities or benefit the town departments or the town board in any way. His job functions, legality, liabilities need to be reviewed. In my personal opinion, the position can be terminated. We've proven to be open and transparent with the town board with issues, contracts, and budgets. We've come to you. We've talked to you. We've had meetings, and this has had nothing to do with a coordinator. We've worked well in this capacity and see no need for the continuance of the hassle, extra job responsibilities, or time required to deal with the extra tasks asked by the town coordinator. I thank you for your time. You can contact me at any time for further information or discussion.
Thank you.
I'm gonna copy of that.
I can send you a copy.
I'll be real then. I do have a letter for each one of you. I'm not a good speaker, so I'll just give you the letter and you guys can. This here is our documentation to accommodate.
You've been a good speaker. I was gonna say.
Yeah, so far, sure.
You have 2 copies then. You have another additional copy.
Yes. You can.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't like me again.
All right. Anything else from everybody? Gonna move to the Dryden Fiber report. David, if he's there.
She's still here.
If he's still there.
Good evening, I'm here.
Hey, Dave.
I have a report I can share if I can share my screen. Thank you. All right, good evening. This is the first report from Dryden Fiber to the town board. I'm just going to cover one slide and invite you to tomorrow morning's 10:30 a.m. full public broadband committee meeting for the in-depth report. It's been a very, very busy month with Dryden Fiber and a really busy year since I joined in June of 2023. So here's the report that we want to share for this week or for this month, which is the biggest headline news is that on Friday, June 14th, the 2 U.S. senators for New York announced the town of Dryden and Caroline are now recipients of the New York State Connect All Office Municipal Infrastructure Program's first round of grants. This is a program that was put together, run by the state, but funded by the federal government. It is an over $200 million program. We applied for this back in March. There's been a lot of back and forth with New York State with the Municipal Infrastructure Program over the last 3 months. And finally, last Friday, they announced that we are recipients of this grant. It's a combined program with the town of Dryden and town of Caroline. The total project cost is $9.9 million, of which the funds from this grant is $8.9 million. So about 90% of it is covered by this grant. I believe it is one of the largest grants to a, I guess, non-city municipality in Tompkins County. And it's going to bring about 125 miles of new fiber optic line to the town of Dryden and town of Caroline and reach over 2,650 new homes with access. These are primarily focused on unserved and underserved homes, which are people that are relying on either dial-up or DSL or speeds that are at 25 meg or lower. The grant runs through December 31st, 2026, so we have a really short timeline of about 30 months to do this construction and build this out across both towns.
It's okay to clap, everyone. This has never happened before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the good thing is we have to pass some areas that are served also, so now they'll have a choice.
Exactly.
So.
David, you're gonna talk about the event on Monday?
I can talk about that.
Okay.
I can just say this, as someone who's here on Zoom, if you are not at a microphone, I cannot hear anything you're saying. So I did hear some crosstalk back there, but I don't know what was said.
The schools will appreciate this as well.
The schools will appreciate it.
Dan, you don't have to yell. Thank you. Yes, the schools will appreciate this as well. We will be able to get to both Dryden High School and the elementary school in the next phase. So we are going to share the news of this publicly. It was released, as I said, by press release last Friday. Next week on Monday, June 24th at noon, we invited both Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand, as well as the governor, our state representatives in the Assembly and State Senate, the county representatives, to celebrate this news, to share the details. Town of Dryden representatives and Town of Caroline representatives will be there. It will be there where you are at Dryden Town Hall. And it will be at noon. We'll also be inviting the press and media to come and hear what we have to say about this enormously huge investment in the towns of Dryden and Caroline.
And all staff and volunteers.
Monday. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, this is, it's open to a whole town team.
I will also be inviting the Public Broadband Committee members to be there, as well as all the vendors. This is a multi-million-dollar project right now, over $10 million, and it is ultimately just staffed. I think I'm the only full-time staff member. Amanda from the bookkeepers department, town bookkeeper, is also involved. Other than that, we have found about a half a dozen or so subcontractors to work and help us build this, so we don't have to add any additional headcount to the town of Dryden. So we'll be inviting all of those organizations to come and be part of this too.
The DPW is supported as well, correct?
Yeah, DPW too. We gotta let Rick and those guys know.
Yeah, you'll do an all-town announcement.
Yeah.
Invitation.
Good idea.
I had talked with Rick about it last, I found out too, let him know when we finally settle on day.
Yeah, we did our best to set a date that would work for our US senators, and that's why we've been kind of going back and forth trying to figure out a day, and
You said Monday?
Monday, the 24th at noon. Hopefully you can get off work.
Oh, June.
Yeah.
3 days. Wow, okay.
Yeah, we can't really wait.
No, I get it. I'm just amazed they're available,
Oh, they're not,
They're
probably, most likely not, but
but still.
we picked the most likely date they could come and the chance that a window opens up. If not, they'll send a representative. Both offices have indicated that.
Very exciting.
baby.
And it's beyond exciting. This is- Nothing like this has ever happened.
Yep.
Should we hand out like swag, like little like cups with strings between them so people can talk to each other?
New school, yeah, sure.
And I really want to make some comments about how that would be faster than some services and stuff.
We're a lot of it.
Oh, it's all the lawsuit.
Well, we have a lot of thank yous to announce and yeah, that's, but right now it's the best kept secret, so. Oh, there's a reporter here.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're gonna talk.
Yeah, Deborah.
Now, this is what I wanted to ask a question about, is not to open a can of worms. Speaking of infrastructure, when is the village gonna let village residents have part in the fire thing in the town? What is?
We're building it for the village, so let's, if you, you might not want to read it, but In both villages, over the next 3 to 6 months is when people will be able to start signing up.
Okay, good.
So
Was there a question there regarding service?
Yes.
Yeah.
What was the question?
But in the village, when people will be able to basically start signing up.
Great, I can go with the next part of the update, give that answer.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So construction updates is the fourth bullet on this slide. There is a massive expansion coming in the next 30 to 60 days, including access to the entire village of Dryden and village of Freeville. This will triple the number of parcels where we can reach, which is adding about 1,032 parcels across both villages. That's in the next 30 to 60 days. We're going to do that in 4 phases. The first phase is the southeast quadrant of the village of Dryden. So Pleasant, James, Union, and Lake Street. Those will be available for people to sign up. People can sign up today. They'll be available for installation in the next 14 days. So it's not 6 months away. It's not 3 months away. We looked at where we were building and where we had the greatest density of households, and we are moving into the villages, like I said, in the next 30 to 60 days, including that southeast quadrant of the village in the next 10 to 15 days. From there, we'll cover the other 4 quadrants around Times Square as we move around the rest of the village of Dryden. At the same time we're doing that, we're also extending the network into the village of Freeville. So the best thing I can recommend to residents of the town of Dryden is to go to drydenfiber.com and sign up today. We'll either know that we can service you right away and get you installed in the next 10 to 14 days, or we'll say you're on the wait list, put your name down. As soon as that address is in the green zone, which means we can provide them service, we will reach out to those residents and say, it's now available. We can schedule you right away. We are now at 292 parcels, which is about 421 households. So the difference there is that some parcels have multiple units, that's apartment buildings and mobile home parks. So we're at about 421. As I said, that does not include the expansion of Dryden Village and the village of Freeville, which is another 1,000 parcels. So we will be around 1,400 parcels by the end of the summer, and probably somewhere between 1,600 and 2,000 households available for service.
That's awesome.
It's incredible steps in the last 6 months. Currently, we have 44 paying customers, and we have 10 customers in the installation queue that will be going live this month. So by the end of this month of June, we expect to be over 50 active customers.
The future's so bright. You gotta wear shades.
We can get Dryden Fiber sunglasses if you like that, Dan.
Something like that. All right.
As I said, the broadband committee meets on the 1st and 3rd Friday of the month. It's a virtual meeting by Zoom, 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And we go a deep dive into this report. You have an entire copy. If you want to join us tomorrow, you can see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Great job, David.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Right.
Deborah, you had your hand up about something before too, I thought.
I did, but
You also want to wait till the citizens privilege part then?
there's
or-
something that was in that letter that was read that's not actually accurate. I was told that it goes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
There was an allegation that I know personally.
Okay. It's okay. Yeah, if you want to just you can let me know later.
I'd like to do that. I'd rather just
Yeah.
personally tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right, let's move through our committee reports real quick, because I think it's only. Got him. There's no one from the counties here. If there's anything you want to, I mean, I don't know, if you really don't want to go through them, if you don't have anything big bad,
Mine's very short.
like snap. And then, yeah, because what I did want to do at the end is just a brief executive session to talk about a personnel thing.
Does anyone?
No, I don't have anything.
Yeah. maybe just-
We
I
already
just wanted to say
discussed, I mean.
Some real quick.
Conservation Board had a really excellent meeting talking about, it was more of a brainstorm meeting, but making sure everyone was thought through feedback for, the zoning efforts that are coming up, so. Good conversation.
There you go. Oh, I think it's worth mentioning that the rail trail easements are with New York State DOT, but I think you all know that. From last week's meeting. And so that's exciting. And we just want to get that project out the bid as soon as possible, so we can put the bridge in.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to wait a day longer than it needs to.
Yeah, and then with, well, Dave just gave the update.
Up, Ben, we're done.
And then, I mean, thanks, Dave, for what's a DRYC for doing all that for the RFP. So. And then Ag Committee did not meet. But, okay, and for this executive, we're not gonna take any action, so do we need to? Yeah.
Yeah. Then just let me know when I'm coming back with regular session.
Okay. All right, so move to go into executive session to discuss personnel.
Second.
Discuss the employment history of a particular individual and then we're not gonna take any action then. So there'll be no vote.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll go into the jury room. So I'm gonna pause the recording, and then we'll come back on just to adjourn. You know, if you want to stick around for that, you can, but.
Is there a program there?
Yeah, I mean, well,
Well, you moved, I seconded.
You seconded.
Do we need to have a vote?
Yes, yes, yes.
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 Yes.